Chapter 76. This senseless bloodbath lasted for an entire night. When the sun rose from the horizon the next day, and the first ray of sunlight shone on Gu Mingming's face, deafening cheers erupted from below the wooden pagoda. Gu Mingming turned her neck in a daze and looked at Elvis, who had been hugging her the entire time, with a pair of numb and empty eyes. Yes, this night, Elvis did not make a move at all. Leah alone blocked a single male from the tribe. It's over. Elvis patted Gu Mingming's back lightly, then held her under her armpits with both hands and lifted her above his head, facing the first ray of sunlight. The beasts below the wooden pagoda became even more excited, their cheers resounding through the sky. Gu Mingming still could not understand the meaning of this coming-of-age ceremony, but thankfully, it was finally over. Elvis carried Gu Mingming and jumped down from the wooden pagoda. Standing in the middle of a group of injured males, he pointed at the 2-story tall pagoda and said, "Look, that's your bonfire." Gu Mingming's eyes widened. Gu Mingming followed Elvis's finger and looked at the wooden pagoda. The blood had already seeped into the wood and was seeping out from the inside. The old blood had coagulated into a paste and wrapped around the round wood, as if a thick layer of blood had been applied to the original wood. Against the light, it looked like a static bonfire in front of them. And Leah, who was walking over leisurely, with his bewitching red robe fluttering in the wind, became the finishing touch to this scene, bringing it to life. Although the males were all injured, they were still unusually excited. In Gu Mingming's coming-of-age bonfire, they were the ones who could use their blood. Gu Mingming did not understand where the pride of the males came from. She only felt her eyes stinging and tears falling down uncontrollably. In the end, she laid in Elvis's arms and sobbed uncontrollably. "Gu Mingming, congratulations. From now on, you're the first beauty of Saint Nazaire." Sandy watched from afar for the entire night. Her state was the exact opposite of Gu Mingming's. She was extremely excited the entire night, and only came back to her senses when Elvis carried Gu Mingming down from the wooden pagoda. Then, she suddenly realized that Gu Mingming's bonfire was much redder and brighter than when Nina came of age 2 years ago. This meant that the males in Saint Nazaire acknowledged Gu Mingming more, so she naturally became the new most beautiful female in Saint Nazaire. Gu Mingming really did not feel anything towards the title of the first beauty. To be honest, being prettier than a bird's nest wasn't something to be proud of. Moreover, Gu Mingming felt physically and mentally exhausted. The emotions that she had suppressed for an entire night finally erupted the moment she saw Sandy. She did not know where she got the strength from, but she struggled out of Elvis's arms and pounced towards Sandy. She hugged Sandy's thick waist and started bawling her eyes out. As she cried, she shouted, "Sandy, what the hell is going on? How many people would die during a birthday celebration? Besides, it wasn't my birthday yesterday. I just had my period. Is there a need for blood to flow like a river?" Ooh. Sandy was a little dumbfounded by Gu Mingming's crying. Her coming-of-age bonfire was so beautiful. If it was her, she would definitely be overjoyed. But why was Gu Mingming crying so sadly? Chapter 77. Sandy comforted Gu Mingming for a long time, but Gu Mingming just could not stop her tears. The males at the side felt their hearts ache, but they could not do anything about it. Even Elvis and Leah could only look at each other and shake their heads helplessly. "Gu Mingming, don't cry. I will roast the rabbit for you, all right?" Sandy's heart ached so much that the only thing she could think of was the delicious roasted rabbit meat. Sob sob. I need to add yellow gravy burp. Gu Mingming felt much better after crying out her suppressed emotions. Coupled with Sandy's gentle companionship, her emotions slowly calmed down. She had not eaten dinner last night, and thought that there would be delicious food during the night campfire party, so she did not pester Elvis to prepare a meal. Who would have thought that the so-called night campfire party was actually stained with the blood of males? Gu Mingming was indeed a little hungry after being on tenterhooks for an entire night. Now that Sandy mentioned it, Gu Mingming wanted to eat even more. All right. I will give you all the yellow gravy in Saint Nazaire, then don't cry." Sandy held onto Gu Mingming's little hand, her clear big eyes reflecting her figure. Sandy really could not understand Gu Mingming. Sometimes, she was braver than anyone else. her fearless demeanor making others worry and feel that she was very reliable at the same time. But sometimes she was as weak as a cub, crying so hard that others could not bear to scold her. They just wanted to give her all the best things in the world, just to get a smile from her. Yeah. Gu Mingming answered while sobbing. The males had long lost their minds after hearing Gu Mingming's crying. Now that she was willing to make a request, what else could they not agree to? Without anyone's instructions, a few of them who had yellow gravy at home ran back to get it. Not long after, all the big and small stuffed buns wrapped in yellow gravy were placed in front of Gu Mingming, scaring her silly. She thought that "I'll give you all the yellow sauce" was just a kind of comforting words between bosom friends, and it was nothing more than that. Just like the cute and obedient girl in their dorm, who shouted yes for everyone in the dorm, only to be caught by the professor and given a harsh scolding. When she came back crying, the girl would also comfort her and say, "It's okay, I'll let you have Lu Han. From today onwards, Lu Han is yours alone. When the two of you get married, I will give you a big red packet too." Indeed, Lu Han and Guan Xiaotong had not announced their relationship at that time, but Gu Mingming's words were definitely not enough. Weren't those words just to coax someone? Damn, did the people in the beast world know how to joke? Gu Mingming could not keep up with him being so honest. "Gu Mingming, I'll help you find yellow sauce right now. I'll find as much as you want. Don't be angry, alright?" Colin limped over. Looking at Gu Mingming's blank expression, he guessed that she did not smile because the yellow gravy was too little, so he volunteered. "I'm very familiar with the yellow needle insects. I can definitely help you get a lot of yellow gravy." Kulin. Gu Mingming looked up and saw Colin's bruised and swollen face. She felt that this was the most beautiful scene she had ever seen. Not caring about the bags of yellow gravy in her hands, Gu Mingming stood up abruptly and hugged Colin. She said excitedly, "You're not dead? You're not dead. That's great, thank the heavens you're still alive." Aside from the topic. Today, I received a notification from the editor that there will be 1P on the 13th. The importance of 1P to a novel need not be mentioned by Jean. All the babies would know. So babies, during the 3 days from the 13th of November to the 16th of November, please do not raise any novels. Because the rate of follow-ups is a very important statistic. Babies who can leave comments, please start your performance PS. During the PK period, Jean will add one update every day. Then, all the babies who leave comments during the PK period will be rewarded with XXB10 for the first comment every day. If the content of the comment is related to the plot, the reward will be increased to 20 to 100 depending on the quality of the comment. Chapter 78. Colin was taken aback by Gu Mingming's sudden passionate hug. His body was so stiff that he could not move at all. He was like a piece of wood nailed to the ground, listening to his deafening heartbeat. Sandy looked at the agitated Gu Mingming and then at Colin. Recalling Colin's brave and fearless look last night, she took a deep breath and suppressed the jealousy in her heart. Colin was such an outstanding male. He should definitely pursue a perfect female like Gu Mingming. How could he like a half-orc female like her? Sandy had already guessed it when she saw how hard Colin worked last night. Her last sliver of hope was that Gu Mingming might not like Colin compared to Elvis and Leah. But looking at it now, they looked so compatible when they hugged each other. Sandy forced herself to smile. Today was her only good friend Gu Mingming's first day of adulthood. Colin could become Gu Mingming's partner on the first day she established her family. Even if his status could not be compared to Elvis and Leah in the future, he would definitely not be bullied by others later on. That was good too. With that thought, Sandy smiled and walked forward. She gave her blessings sincerely. Gu Mingming, congratulations on becoming an adult. Elvis, Leah and Colin are all very good males. I believe they will take good care of you in the future. Huh. Gu Mingming froze on the spot as if she was struck by lightning. She could understand if she was talking about Elvis and Leah. They were her godparents and could be considered as a family. But what did it have to do with Colin? Sandy looked at Gu Mingming's confused expression. She stretched out a finger in confusion and pointed at the two hugging each other. Didn't you decide to take Colin in as your partner? Gu Mingming followed Sandy's chubby little hand and lowered her head to look. She suddenly let go of her hand and gave Colin a hard shove. But Colin was not pushed badly. Instead, Gu Mingming staggered 2 steps back from the reaction. She shook her head and waved her hands as she walked to Sandy. She held onto Sandy's chubby little hand and explained like a husband who had been wrongly accused of cheating on his wife. No. There's no such thing as mating. I just thought Colin died because of me last night, so I felt guilty. Now that he's safe, I'm just too happy. It has nothing to do with taking in partners or not. But you hugged him. Sandy looked at Gu Mingming, her eyes filled with confusion. Females in the beast world were very precious, so they were well protected by the males. In other words, they were extremely arrogant. No matter how much the males had to go through, they would take it for granted. They would never be grateful, nor would they care about their lives. In any case, there were males everywhere. If they died, it would be his fault for being incompetent. Just look at Nina and you can see that. Her own males might not even get a hug just because she was alive, let alone other males. For the female to be so emotional and care about him, wasn't it because he was the partner she had chosen? Gu Mingming shook her head like a rattledrum and explained hurriedly. You know that I came from the outside? In our country, it was normal for friends to care for each other and hug each other. Some would even kiss each other when they meet. This has nothing to do with mating. It's just a way to show politeness and friendliness. Aside from the topic, yeah. Our Gu Mingming had unknowingly become a hooligan and molested the pure and innocent Colin. Equals is identical to sigma. Omega? Chapter 79. Care Hugs Kisses. A bloody smell enveloped Gu Mingming. Lee's fingertips that looked like they had been painted with nail polish slid across Gu Mingming's cheeks. With a hook of his finger, he pinched her tiny chin and repeated the 3 keywords word by word. His smile was deep, but it gave Gu Mingming goosebumps all over her body. Leah. Leah, Daddy Leah. Listen to my explanation. Gu Mingming's knees gave way, and she almost knelt on the ground out of fear. Damn it, she had watched the whole night of Black Leah. It was a wooden tower that was 2 stories high, and he did not show any mercy when he threw the males from the same tribe down. Gu Mingming deeply felt like she was kissing her Prince Charming for the first time after chasing him for a long time. Damn it, when she turned around, her parents were standing behind her. That was a kind of thrill that even the most extreme horror movies could not bring. Damn it, what should she do? Yeah, I'm listening. Lee's smile did not diminish and he stared at Gu Mingming with an expression that said, I want to see how you are going to make it up. Gu Mingming racked her brains for a long time, but she could not think of a way that Leah could accept to explain what was social interaction and what was friendship. Damn it, in this beast world, was there any pure friendship between males and females? Damn it, even males acted out Brokeback Mountain. How the hell was she going to explain to Leah what was pure friendship? Leader. Look for her mother at the crucial moment. That was Gu Mingming's last weapon. She looked at Elvis with a sullen face and wanted to ask for help, but Elvis's face was cold, clearly showing that he was on Lee's side. Damn it. Wasn't family education where one played the good cop and the other played the bad cop? When her father wanted to beat her to death, shouldn't her mother pounce on her father's thigh and say, if you want to hit me, don't hit me, I'm still a child? Why was it that when it came to her, her parents were on the same side? Where's the good cop? Where's the bad cop? Gu Mingming instantly felt that life was hopeless. She clenched her teeth and raised her head. Yes, our concern. Hugs and kisses are all expressions of politeness. But I have no politeness. Lee's smile softened and became doting. He pinched Gu Mingming's chin lightly and shook it a few times, before letting go of her little face. He turned around and pulled her arm, throwing her back into Elvis's arms. He turned sideways to block Colin's entire line of sight. He casually fiddled with his sharp claws and said calmly, although the bonfire ceremony is over, I will still accept it if you want to challenge me. Although Colin really liked Gu Mingming, and that hug just now really gave him the urge to fight to the death. But if Gu Mingming was in a hurry to clarify and prove herself, it would be impossible for him to continue pretending to be deaf and not hearing anything. He did not mind if Gu Mingming did not like him. As long as he could take care of Gu Mengmeng and make her safer and happier, Colin did not really care if others liked him or not. But he did not want Gu Mengmeng to be put in a difficult position because of her. That would go against his original intentions. So Colin hurriedly waved his hands and said, No, I know I can't win. However, I won't give up. When I'm stronger, I'll challenge you again. I hope that at that time, you won't refuse to accept my challenge. Chapter 80. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng and gently wiped her tear-stained face. His gaze was gentle and doting and his voice was very soft. Rather than saying that he was talking to Gu Mengmeng, it would be better to say that he was talking to himself. It's good that you don't have any manners, keep it up, understand? Gu Mengmeng did not even have the energy to complain in her heart. She was after all a good young lady who had studied Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping and Marxism-Leninism. Now that she was being taught not to be polite, her worldview was collapsing. All right, let's first announce the partners you have chosen, then I'll go hunt and ask Leah to roast rabbits for you. Elvis tried his best to appear calm, not wanting Gu Mengmeng to see his anticipation. Even though Leah was the only one fighting with the challenging males last night, no one would doubt his abilities. Moreover, Gu Mengmeng's reliance on him and Leah was obvious to all. So no one would doubt their status as first partners. Now, as long as Gu Mengmeng opened her mouth and said something to give them a title, it would be enough. However, what partner? Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded. Didn't no one beat Daddy Leah yesterday? Can't we just go home directly? Elvis smiled faintly. Gu Mengmeng, the messenger of the beast deity, really knew nothing about the rules of the beast world. But her clueless look was so lovable. Yeah, Leah worked hard for the whole night, you should at least give him a title. Elvis purposely did not mention himself, because Gu Mengmeng's attitude had already explained everything. She called his cave home. She wanted him to bring her back home, which meant that she had silently acknowledged his status as first partner. Because after the females in the beast world came of age, they would all stay in the cave of the first partner chosen during the coming-of-age ceremony. They would renovate the cave after mating, so that the females could live more comfortably, but the foundation was definitely the territory of the first partner. So his status had already been set, and there was no need to say anything more. What? What title? Gu Mengmeng stared at Elvis with her eyes wide open, then turned to look at Leah, who looked like a blood-stained lotus flower, and said with a dumbfounded face, Daddy Leah can't mate with me. It's against morality, it's intolerable. Lee's heart throbbed violently. He lowered his head in shock to look at where his heart was, before raising his head to look at Gu Mengmeng. She was indeed different. Because of her, this numb heart had already felt strange twice. Leah walked slowly to Gu Mengmeng, his brows slightly furrowed, not because he was angry, but because he was hurt. His slender fingers gently caressed Gu Mengmeng's face, his gaze filled with an incomprehensible hidden bitterness. You despise me, don't like me, so you don't want me, right? No. Gu Mengmeng hurriedly shook her head and said, You are my daddy, why would I despise you, not like you and not want you? Then why don't you let me be your mate? Leah did not know why his emotions would be so easily affected by Gu Mengmeng. He originally wanted to mate with her because she was the messenger of the beast deity, but now, his uncontrollable heart was clearly telling him that it was not just that. He cared about this little female in front of him. That was why he tirelessly repelled everyone who tried to rush up the wooden tower last night. If not for his deep feelings for Saint Nazir, he might have lost control of his emotions and started a massacre last night. Out of topic. Gu Mengmeng. Xiao Jinzi, what are you doing? Author, digging soil. Gu Mengmeng. How old are you already, still playing with soil? Disdainful face. Author. Gu Mengmeng, you are not allowed to say that about my food. Gu Mengmeng Sigmao? Oh. Author. Keep your shocked expression. Which woman doesn't eat soil for at least 300 days a year? Elvis. Gu Mengmeng, come over. The roasted meat is ready. Gu Mengmeng sprinted away, leaving Author. Gu Mengmeng's back view. What's so great about having a mate? She didn't go shopping on Singles Day and actually came to abuse dogs. Chapter 81. You are my daddy Leah. Gu Mingming looked at Leah in confusion, thinking to herself, why are you saying you want to mate with me in front of Elvis? What kind of seniority is this? Leah squinted his eyes and asked, what kind of title is daddy? Does it have the same meaning as beauty? F*******. Gu Mingming's heart broke down. Damn it, have you never sat in a rocking car before? Never heard of a nursery rhyme called, Daddy's daddy is grandpa? Gu Mingming really could not give Leah a proper relationship, so she could only wink her eyes and say, Elvis is watching, what are you doing? Leah was even more confused. Elvis was watching. Was there a problem? Elvis would not object to it. Leah, let me tell you, if you continue making a fuss, Elvis will really get angry and I won't be able to help you then. Gu Mingming patted Lee's shoulder earnestly, but before she could finish her sentence, Elvis said quietly at the side, I'm not angry. F*******. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis in shock, and suddenly felt discouraged. She turned to look at Leah and said, you see, this trick is useless. Leah looked into Gu Mingming's eyes and used his finger to lift her chin, making her look straight into his eyes. Then he said slowly, don't avoid my question. Tell me why you don't want me to be your partner? Why do you not like me? Gu Mingming slapped Lee's hand and pushed his hand away from her chin. All right, stop pretending. I told you this trick is useless. Look at Elvis, he's not jealous at all. Why don't you just tell me directly, why did you two quarrel? Let me, as your daughter, help you two to reconcile. Elvis totally did not understand what Gu Mingming was talking about. He said in confusion, I didn't quarrel with Leah. But Leah seemed to have thought of something as he suddenly raised his head and laughed out loud for a long while, until Gu Mingming's hair stood on end. Only then did he forcefully stop laughing. He placed one hand on Elvis's shoulder and inched his blood-stained face towards Elvis, but his eyes were looking at Gu Mingming disdainfully from the side. Just as his lips were about to touch Elvis's face, he suddenly stopped and turned around to face Gu Mingming, who was staring at him with a pair of innocent big eyes full of anticipation. Did you think that Elvis and I are partners? Gu Mingming felt embarrassed as if she had been exposed. Didn't they say that it could only be understood and not explained? Why did he say it out loud? Elvis's reaction was even bigger than Gu Mingming's. It was as if he had been struck by lightning, and it was to the extent that he was charred from the inside out. His face was extremely black as he squeezed out word by word from between his teeth. Leah and I are both males. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis and said helplessly, I know, but so what? You shouldn't be so concerned about how others see you. You're not living for those people who only know how to spread rumors. It's because you're always so concerned about how others see you and not willing to face your own feelings. That's why Leah is forced to be like this. Gu Mingming got more agitated as she spoke. She pulled Leah over and pointed at him. Look at him, look at him. How much did you force him to think of using mating with me to force you to face the feelings between you two? When are you going to stop running away? Gu Mingming's serious and angry face made Elvis really want to pry open her little head to see what was inside. Aside from the topic, come sing with me. Chapter 82. Leah, who was clearly in the midst of it all, pretended to be aggrieved while trying to hold back his laughter. He nodded his head cooperatively and looked at Elvis with a gloating expression. Elvis's forehead bulged with a thick and huge frown. He gritted his teeth and shouted, Leah! After being roared at by Elvis, a pair of furry triangular ears suddenly appeared on Lee's head. The position was the same as Sandy's little bear ears, but they were not brown like Sandy's ears. Instead, they were pure white and furry little ears without any impurities. Lee's action gave Elvis a shock. The anger he was about to explode was forcefully suppressed in his chest. One must know that a fully transformed orc would not have any beast characteristics. Could it be that Lee's ears, had they degenerated? But there was no precedent in the beast world. Elvis was about to say something when he saw Lee's fluffy big tail swinging around behind him. This time, not only Elvis, but all the orcs in St. Nazaire were shocked. Leah degenerated? He degenerated in fear after being roared at by Elvis. Leah. Elvis's brows furrowed into a dead knot. He opened his mouth but did not know what to say. The reason why Saint Nazir could fight for a place among the strong enemies was not only because of his martial skills, but also because of Li's schemes. No matter who was missing, Saint Nazir would always be in a precarious situation, and would become the target of others' attacks at any time. Especially when Gu Mengmeng, the messenger of the beast deity, was about to descend. Once Gu Mengmeng's identity was exposed, Saint Nazir would become the target of everyone. But at this time, Leah degenerated. Compared to the nervousness of the others, Leah was much more relaxed. A fluffy and soft tail swayed around like a feather teaser, causing Gu Mengmeng to involuntarily stretch out her hands to hug it in her arms. Ever since Li's tail appeared, that pair of big innocent eyes had not shifted away at all. Her whole body was covered in pink bubbles, and her eyes were filled with surprise. Li's eyes were filled with happiness. But Leah would not let Gu Mengmeng have her way. It was as if he was teasing her on purpose. He would always pull away just when she was about to grab onto his tail, missing her dirty little hands by a hair's breadth. But at the same time, he did not move too far away from her. He swayed right in front of her, causing her to pounce on him again and again, as if she was a cat lured by a cat teaser. Leah smiled slyly and shook his head at Elvis, gesturing him not to worry. Then he used his chin to point at Gu Mengmeng. Elvis turned back in confusion, only to realize that Gu Mengmeng had been teased by Li's big tail to the point that she forgot herself. Elvis still did not quite understand. He furrowed his brows and cast a questioning look at Leah, but Leah just smiled and did not say anything. There were some things that did not need to be told to everyone. Leah swung his big tail and approached Gu Mengmeng step by step. Finally, he sent his fluffy tail into Gu Mengmeng's arms. Gu Mengmeng rubbed her face against Li's big tail in satisfaction after hugging it. The satisfaction and happiness on her face could not be faked. At that moment, Li's heart felt like it was being teased by a pair of little hands. That touch made his whole body go numb. Then, a faint sweetness spread all over his body. He wanted this female. Leah moved his face that resembled a blood-stained white lotus to Gu Mengmeng, who was playing happily. He asked in a light and ambiguous tone, "Daddy Li's tail, do you want it?" Aside from the topic, tomorrow at 12 noon, this article will be published. Once again, I beg my little babies not to keep reading for the next 3 days. From the 13th to the 16th, please follow the article every day and leave more comments. If anyone wants to reward Jean Eyre and Gu Mengmeng, please focus on pampering them during these 3 days. Chapter 83. Gu Mengmeng nodded her head hurriedly, her big watery eyes filled with anticipation. To a furry lover like Gu Mengmeng, this big tail was too tempting. If you accept me, this tail, and my entire body will belong to you. Leah inched forward, half leaning his body to cater to Gu Mengmeng's height. His pair of slender hands had already retracted his sharp fingertips, leaving only his white and slender fingertips, gently caressing Gu Mengmeng's little face with a tactile sensation. His tone was filled with endless ambiguity and extreme temptation. But Gu Mengmeng was so engrossed in the big tail that she could not pull herself away, but she still had her rationality, even though it was just a strand. Whoosh! Leah pulled away slightly, and the big tail in Gu Mengmeng's arm slipped out of her hands. Gu Mengmeng instinctively reached out to grab it again, but she only grabbed air. As for Leah, he transformed into a snow-white fox, looking at Gu Mengmeng with a holy and arrogant posture. He lifted one of his front paws to his lips, and stuck out his pink tongue, licking his paw nonchalantly. Gu Mengmeng's HP was already empty. Her last bit of rationality completely broke, and she pounced over to hug Li's neck, burying her entire body in Li's pure white fur in satisfaction. A faint grassy fragrance entered her nose, mixed with Li's unique scent. That was a hidden wildness, barely visible, and only faintly discernible. That was the most fascinating. Leah smiled lightly in his heart. It was really rare to see a female that liked a male body so much. If he had known this earlier, why did he use the fox seductive fragrance on her yesterday? Wouldn't it be settled if he just revealed his true form? Leah bit Gu Mengmeng's collar lightly, flung her onto his back, then moaned softly to Elvis, before sprinting away like a ray of light. Elvis shook his head helplessly, then transformed into a wolf and followed closely behind. The males under the wooden pagoda could only watch as the black and white shadows disappeared before their eyes, and none of them had the right to chase after them. Just now, Leah let Gu Mingming get on his back, right? Melee said. Yeah, I didn't see wrongly this time. Leah really carried Gu Mingming on his back. The male bee replied. In that case, Mela suddenly recalled the day when Gu Mingming first came to Saint Nazir. Elvis also threw her on his back and ran away. At that time, they thought they had seen wrongly. But now that she thought about it, Saint Nazir's strongest fighting power and wisest witch doctor seemed to be willing to submit to Gu Mingming, offering her their lifelong loyalty. Yes, we didn't see wrongly that day. Elvis carried Gu Mingming on his back then. Maleby and Melee had the same idea. The two injured males gave each other a fist bump and smiled against the sunlight. Looks like if we want to mate with Gu Mingming, we have to work harder to improve our abilities. Otherwise, it would be impossible to get Elvis and Lee's approval. Makes sense, Melee agreed. But none of them noticed that behind the crowd, there was a pair of vicious eyes staring hatefully at the direction where Gu Mingming, Leah and Elvis disappeared. A pair of withered and wrinkled hands ruthlessly pinched the arm of the male beside her, but the male could not care less about his bleeding arm, only hugging her shoulders lightly and coaxing. All right, Nina, don't be angry. Chapter 84. Leah and Elvis returned to Elvis's cave one after another. Leah stopped at the entrance of Elvis's cave and transformed into a human, but kept his tail and ears in his beast form. He did not seem to mind that others might think he was a lowly half-orc now. He just laid on his side seductively and used his large tail to encircle Gu Mingming in his arms. While using his large tail to tease Gu Mingming, who was playing happily, he looked at her with a doting expression and asked, "Can I go in?" Gu Mingming could not bear to let go of this large tail at all. Moreover, it was not like Leah had never entered Elvis's cave before. What reason did she have to reject him? So she nodded hurriedly and said, Yes, of course you can." Leah nodded his head in satisfaction and exchanged glances with Elvis, saying, "Go ahead and hunt, leave this to me." Elvis did not transform back into his human form as he was afraid that he would reveal his jealousy. Gu Mingming liked Lee's original form so much, but she did not even look at him, who had also transformed into a wolf. Looking at Gu Mingming nestling in Lee's arms in satisfaction, Elvis suppressed the sourness in his heart and nodded before turning to run away. He used his speed to challenge his body's limits to numb the irritation in his heart. He kept telling himself that he and Leah were both Gu Mingming's partners, and it was fine as long as she was happy. After Elvis left, Leah hooked Gu Mingming's little chin lightly and turned her little face towards him. Looking at her hugging his tail innocently and not letting go, Leah felt a strange feeling in his heart once again. It was as if a warm current was spreading from his left chest to the rest of his body. That feeling was very warm, very comfortable, and made one yearn for it. Tell me, what should Elvis's title be when it corresponds to Daddy Leah? Gu Mingming blinked her eyes and answered without thinking, Old Godmother. Leah raised his eyebrows. He could not differentiate between Daddy and Godmother, and would not know that Old Godmother was a type of chili sauce. He could only compare from the literal meaning and pronunciation before nodding his head in approval, saying, Yeah, I still like the title Daddy Leah. Come on, say it again. Gu Mingming blushed. When she wanted to hug his thighs, she just blurted it out. But now that there were only the two of them, this demon was still looking at her ambiguously and asking her to call him Daddy. It was so damn embarrassing. You're not calling me? Leah tilted his beautiful eyes and said as if he was hurt. You called me so intimately before you got me. Now that I'm yours, you're not even willing to say a nickname? Ming, you are so heartless. What? Gu Mingming shuddered and said in shock. Don't spout nonsense, I didn't pounce on you. How did you become mine? Pooh. Leah did not seem surprised by Gu Mingming's reaction. He just ruminated over the word pounce, before asking with a sincere expression. You just pounced from Elvis's arms to me in front of everyone in the tribe. You even hugged me, touched and played with me for a long time. Now, are you going to turn against me and refuse to admit it? Gu Mingming shook her head and waved her hands. It was a common feeling of being unable to explain herself. How the hell was she going to explain that this PU was not the PU? It was all her fault for being blinded by lust. She couldn't control her urges when she saw a body of flawless white fur. But what she had pounced on was a fox, the kind of high-class pet. Aside from the topic, don't rush, Elvis's status has not been decided yet. It's impossible for Leah to be promoted. Chapter 85. In the future, you're not allowed to say that I'm not yours. Do you understand? Leah used one hand to hold on to Gu Mingming's hand that was waving like a windshield wiper, and pulled it into his arms. Gu Mingming drowned in Lee's fluffy big tail while Leah caressed Gu Mingming's little head from time to time. He said in a slightly reproachful tone, I don't want to be abandoned. Gu Mingming hugged onto Lee's big tail without letting go and said tearlessly, Daddy Leah, I didn't abandon you, but I really can't mate with you. You didn't abandon me, but you can't mate with me. Do you still want to pair me up with Elvis? Leah smiled evilly. He placed his elbows on the ground and supported his chin with his palm. He looked at Gu Mingming coquettishly and said, If Gu Mingming likes it, I can cooperate once in a while. But if it's for a long time, even if I agree, Elvis won't agree. Gu Mingming felt her nose bleeding. Her already empty blood tank was overdrawn. Leah, does your mother know how dirty you are? At first glance, Gu Mingming still felt that Leah was as pure and holy as a flower on a high mountain, not to be messed with. His image had crumbled too quickly. What the heck, in just one night, Leah had walked further and further down the path of corruption, as though he was never going to return. Leah held on to Gu Mingming's hand gently. The gentleness in his eyes could almost be squeezed out. He looked at Gu Mingming affectionately and said, Gu Mingming, promise me no matter what, don't abandon me, all right? Unknowingly, Gu Mingming's heart was suddenly touched violently. Lee's gaze was clearly smiling and gentle, but Gu Mingming felt as if she could see an unknown scar in that pair of eyes. Leah. What had he experienced? Gu Mingming kept her joking thoughts and frowned slightly. She looked back at Leah and deliberated for a long time before shaking her head and saying, I can't promise something I can't do. You're very good, but I can't mate with you. Why? Hearing Gu Mingming's rejection, Lee's heart tightened. The question that he blurted out caught him off guard. Why would he care about the reason? According to his original personality, no matter what her reason was, he would always have a way to make her comply with his wishes. But why did he care about, why now? Gu Mingming lowered her head, not daring to look into Lee's eyes. Rejecting someone was a stressful matter, especially rejecting Leah, a Prince Charming whom Gu Mingming could not match up to no matter how she looked at it. The stress was even greater. And when the Prince Charming was still looking at you with an infatuated expression, the pressure was so great that it felt like the atmosphere was about to explode. Marriage. Oh no, mating is an important matter that affects the entire generation. It can't be done casually or carelessly. Leah hooked Gu Mingming's chin with his finger. He liked the way she looked at him. When he could clearly see himself in her clear eyes, he felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. And her avoidance made his heart uneasy. But this time, Leah felt that he was wrong. Why was it that when he saw the clear guilt and apology in her eyes, his heart felt as if it was being slowly pierced by a sharp claw? That pain lasted for a long time, and he could clearly feel every minute and inch of it. I'm willing to pledge my lifelong loyalty to you, not carelessly or casually. Leah retracted his arm and pulled Gu Mingming into his embrace, avoiding her serious gaze. Their faces were pressed against each other, and Lee's lips moved softly beside Gu Mingming's ear. Mingming, believe me, I'm serious. Aside from the topic, on the first day of the PK, I'll add more updates. My little babies, please leave a comment. Whether Gu Mingming would have meat to eat in the future depended on everyone. Chapter 86. But Gu Mingming felt a tightness in her throat. She was really not good at rejecting, but no matter how seductive or immortal Leah was, Gu Mingming really could not entrust her entire life to him so carelessly. We've only known each other for 3 days. You still have a lifetime to slowly familiarize yourself with me. Leah supported the back of Gu Mingming's head with one hand, while the other wrapped around her waist tightly. He was afraid that he would hurt her if he used more strength, but he was afraid that she would break free and never come back if he used less strength. Gu Mingming tried to push Leah away, but to no avail. Compared to males, even if she had 2 years of bodybuilding training, she was still considered a weak girl without the strength to truss a chicken. Leah, I'm sorry. Gu Mingming gave up struggling, and allowed Leah to hug her like that. She knew that males in the beast world had extremely good hearing, so with the distance between them, even if her voice was soft, Leah would definitely be able to hear it clearly. A lifetime is too heavy a promise. I can't give my entire life to someone I've only known for 3 days. Lee's back stiffened. He thought that after what happened in the past, his heart would no longer hurt, but he was wrong. But you accepted Elvis. Leah looked down, a tinge of dejection in his eyes. Ha! Gu Mingming's brain was a little slow. She seemed to know something incredible, but could not explain exactly what it was. Leah looked at Gu Mingming's reaction and suddenly asked, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Don't tell me, you don't intend to mate with Elvis too? What a joke. Elvis is my godmother. Gu Mingming jumped up out of reflex, but after saying that, she suddenly remembered, damn, Elvis helped her change her sanitary pad before. And he even changed his clothes from head to toe. F***ck. What happened to the promised sisters, godmother and daughter? Gu Mingming looked up at the sky and sighed. I've been tricked by a wild wolf. Leah laughed and squinted his eyes. His gaze drifted to the distance, looking calm but with a hint of murderous intent. So the first partner in your heart is Barit? How is that possible? Gu Mingming shook her head heartlessly. I only see Barit as a friend. The kind of friend who can care, hug and kiss? Leah raised his eyebrows and asked. Gu Mingming facepalmed. Damn it, could this joke ever get over with? Seeing that Gu Mingming did not reply, Leah curled his large tail and scooped Gu Mingming into his arms. Her tiny waist was pressed tightly against Lee's firm abs, and both her feet were off the ground. Other than Leah, she did not have any other support points, so she could only wrap her arms around Lee's neck to maintain her balance, but her upper body instinctively moved backwards, trying to widen the distance between them. But why would Leah let her have her way? One of his hands had already grabbed the back of her head and fixed her in front of him at a distance of about a fist. With a smile that was not a smile, he said, Mingming, if you feel that 3 days is too short and is not enough for you to believe my sincerity, then before you feel that it is long enough, let me be your friend. The kind of friend that you can care, hug, kiss. As Leah spoke, he slowly inched forward. His target was naturally Gu Mingming's tender and delicious lips. Gu Mingming crossed her arms in front of her chest and blocked Lee's kiss. She laughed dryly. Ha, ha ha, it's good to be friends. Let's start from being friends. Friends can kiss. Leah said unhappily. There are many types of friends too. Not every friend can be kissed. Gu Mingming said seriously. No. Leah raised his head and said in a slightly commanding tone with a sense of pride. I want to be your only friend. Other than me, you cannot be polite to any other friend or else I will kill him. Leah raised his head and looked at Gu Mingming. Aside from the topic, come my little babies. Today's prize-winning question and answer session. Old godmother's real name is _________. The first prize for answering correctly is XXB30, the second prize is 20, the third prize is 10. The prize for 40 minus 10 is 5. The prize for 11 minus 20 is 2. It's just a small token for fun, babies, don't despise it. Chapter 87. Leah looked serious and Gu Mingming could not help but recall his decisiveness last night, as well as the blurry image in the depths of her memory. On a dark and windy night, that man whose face could not be seen clearly carried her with one hand, while the other hand easily broke Colin's arm, saving her from the hands of the Grim Reaper. She would not doubt Lee's words. This was the beast world, where violence was justice and only the strong could enjoy the spoils. Leah had enough ability to fulfill every word he said. And even if he did it, no one would find it inappropriate. The winner was the king, that was the logic. But the education and living environment that Gu Mengmeng had received meant that she was unable to accept the fact that human life was just an ordinary and common setting like everyone else here. She was even more unable to accept the fact that others would simply die because of her. Leah, the world is so beautiful, but you are so hot-tempered. This is not good, not good. Gu Mengmeng nodded her head seriously, trying to convince Leah to give up on that cruel idea. Lee's coquettish gaze landed on Gu Mengmeng's little face. His index finger gently lifted her little chin and accepted her gaze. The corners of his lips curled up slightly, making him look extremely flirtatious, graceful and noble with unparalleled elegance. Call me Daddy. For some reason Leah liked this title very much, even though he did not know what Daddy was. Gu Mengmeng's lips twitched. What an instant drama. She even suspected that what Leah had said just now was purposely teasing her. Not calling me that. Gu Mengmeng turned her head away proudly, who was not a baby. Really not calling me? Leah was not angry, he just swayed his big tail lightly and looked at Sandy who was walking towards them from afar, deep in thought. He said, "This world is not so beautiful after all." Gu Mengmeng followed Lee's gaze and saw that Sandy had already walked to the edge of Elvis's territory, receiving a pile of unknown things from his mails. She carried them and walked towards them. Leah seemed to be doing it on purpose, his slender and bony fingers stretched out one by one in front of Gu Mengmeng, his fingertips growing sharp nails at a speed visible to the naked eye. Was he going to be irritable? Gu Mengmeng immediately gave up on her principles and hugged onto Lee's thighs. Daddy Leah, please calm down. Leah pretended to be hesitant as he looked at Sandy and then at Gu Mengmeng. He asked with 30% threat and 70% anticipation. Between Sandy and me, who do you like more? Gu Mengmeng flattered him without any principles. I like Daddy Leah. Leah smiled in satisfaction and retracted his fingernails. He tapped Gu Mengmeng's little nose lightly and said, Don't call others Daddy, this title belongs to me only. Yes, Daddy Leah. Gu Mengmeng nodded her head vigorously. She did not have the habit of going around looking for someone's father, so why would she not agree? Good. Leah was extremely satisfied. Although he did not gain Gu Mengmeng's approval to become her partner, it was already a good progress to be able to live together with her. Leah did not want to force Gu Mengmeng too much, in case he scared her. So he rubbed her furry little head and said, Go and play with Sandy, I think Elvis should be back soon. Daddy Leah will roast the rabbit for you later. Gu Mengmeng really wanted to tell Leah that calling himself Daddy Leah was very Chinibyu, but when the words reached the tip of her tongue, she chose to swallow them back into her stomach. She nodded obediently and said, All right. Out of topic. Oh yes. Just to clarify, all activities are limited to little friends who leave messages in the message area of Xiaoxiang Academy. Because Xiaoxiang's authors don't have a backer on QQ reading, we can't set up any rewards. Dear readers, if you are willing to have fun with Jeaner, please download the Xiaoxiang Academy app. Also leave a message. Collect. Chapter 88. Leah gently let go of Gu Mengmeng and placed her on the ground steadily. Then he slowly stretched out his large tail and followed Gu Mengmeng's rhythm as she ran towards Sandy until his tail could no longer touch her. Leah retracted his tail and looked at Gu Mengmeng's radiant smile with a doting expression. He pondered over what Gu Mengmeng had said just now. The world was so beautiful. Yeah, it was indeed beautiful. This was unprecedented. Leah turned around to start a fire. Although he was fearful of the fire demon, it was a necessity for his Gu Mengmeng to eat. So what if he had to use his bones as firewood? On the other side, Gu Mengmeng pounced towards Sandy happily. She took the things from her hands and asked, Why did you bring so many things over? Sandy distributed the things to Gu Mengmeng and said, You left just like that just now and forgot to take the yellow gravy that everyone gave you. Gu Mengmeng slapped her forehead in realization. Then, she rubbed her hands together with a money grubber face and said, Ayaya, that's great, Sandy. You're really my lucky star. Elvis just happened to go hunting. Let's roast meat with honey later. Sandy remembered that Gu Mengmeng mentioned before that their original tribe called the yellow gravy honey. At the thought of roast meat, Sandy swallowed her saliva instinctively. But looking at Leah, who was starting a fire behind Gu Mingming, Sandy twisted her fingers and said with some grievance, "Today is the first time Elvis and Leah are your partners. This day is too precious to them." Sandy looked at the yellow gravy in Gu Mingming's hands. She imagined the combination of the sweet yellow gravy and the delicious roast meat, and what kind of amazing taste would be produced. That would definitely be an unprecedented delicacy. Wiping away the saliva that flowed down from the corner of her mouth, Sandy endured the huge torment in her heart and said, "I'll come and eat with you next time." Before she finished her sentence, Sandy had already turned around to leave, but her pair of meaty feet were rooted to the ground and could not move an inch. Gu Mingming looked at Sandy's struggling back view, and the meaty hands that were purposely left behind for her to hold. She burst out laughing. She walked to the front of Sandy and stuffed the yellow gravy into her arms. "Leah, Elvis and I don't have that kind of relationship. If you want to know the details, why don't you stay and eat with us? Let's talk while we eat." Sandy's heart sank into two huge whirlpools. The whirlpool on the left was why Gu Mingming said that Leah and Elvis did not have the kind of relationship she had imagined. The whirlpool on the right was, when would the roasted meat be cooked? Which one should I ask first? Sandy was extremely conflicted. Gu Mingming looked at Sandy's conflicted expression and nudged her with her shoulder. "Stop daydreaming and come over to help." Oh, okay. Sandy was a little excited. Help? Gu Mingming asked her for help. Ever since she was young, she had only been waiting to eat, drink, and be taken care of. When she was young, it was her father, and when she grew up, it was her partner. They had always told her, "Be good and wait, it will be ready soon." This was the first time someone had asked her for help. Sandy was so agitated that she almost cried. But Gu Mingming had no idea what kind of feelings she had brought to Sandy's heart. Wasn't it normal for best friends to help each other out? Sandy blindly followed behind Gu Mingming, her little hands clutching the sides of her dress nervously. Her eyes shone with anticipation and nervousness. What would Gu Mingming ask her to do? She seemed to not know how to do anything. Aside from the topic, Jeaner brought Gu Mingming, Elvis and Leah, asking for love in all sorts of ways. Please don't be a novelist, you must catch up with the updates. Chapter 89. Gu Mingming skipped to Lee's side with Sandy. At this moment, Leah had just started a small fire by mimicking how Elvis had drilled wood to start a fire on the punishment platform. Leah frowned slightly. Animals had a more sensitive sense of smell than humans, and orcs had a better sense of smell than animals. The smoke had obviously made Leah choke. Gu Mingming had always been a person who took pity on beauties. Her heart ached when she saw Leah in pain. She hurriedly took over the wooden stick from Lee's hands and said, "It's all right, Daddy. Leah, go and rest. Leave this to me and Sandy." Lee's lips curled up slightly. He liked how Gu Mingming was concerned about him. With a slight curl of his big tail, he circled Gu Mingming and placed her behind him, using his body to block the smoke for her. He looked at her gently from the corner of his eye and said, "My heart will ache if I choke you." Thump, thump. Daddy. Leah was really good at flirting. Gu Mingming felt her bones soften, and she almost drowned in Lee's faint smile that could turn all living things upside down. No way. No way. Gu Mingming turned to look at Sandy, who was sitting obediently at the side. "Are those your males squatting and smelling the smoke over there?" Sandy looked in the direction that Gu Mingming was pointing at. She then turned around and nodded at Gu Mingming. "Yeah, it's Boat and the rest. Why don't they come over?" Gu Mingming was puzzled. Sandy seemed to be used to Gu Mingming's lack of common sense. She did not think much about it and just patiently explained. "This is Elvis's territory. Without his permission, other males cannot enter as they please. If not for you, even a female like me cannot enter as she pleases." Gu Mingming asked in a daze, "Has Elvis always been so unsociable and doesn't interact with others?" Sandy could not help but shake her head. "It's not that Elvis is unsociable. Every male has his own sense of territory. He can't offend any other males or else he will be seen as a provocation and be attacked." Gu Mingming blinked and rubbed her chin. "Then what if I want to look for you in the future? If I accidentally enter someone else's territory, won't I die a horrible death? As Leah added dried leaves to the fire, he said nonchalantly, "Don't worry, you have Elvis and me, no one can hurt you." Gu Mingming's eyes sparkled like stars. She clasped her hands in front of her chest and looked at Leah with admiration. "Daddy, Leah is so reliable." Leah smiled without saying a word. He was in a good mood as he added a bunch of dried leaves to the fire, almost extinguishing the small flame that had just started. "Gu Mingming, why did you call Leah Daddy? What exactly does Daddy mean?" Sandy tilted her head and asked Gu Mingming with a curious look. "Papa." Gu Mingming felt a deep sense of despair. The papa and mama combo was the first word she learned when she was learning to speak, but she did not know how to use literal words to explain this form of address. After thinking for a while, Gu Mingming finally squeezed out a sentence. "Daddy is the most reliable male in this world. He will save us from any danger or hardship. No matter what kind of difficulties we encounter, he will stand in front of us and protect us for the rest of our lives. Daddy is the only male in this world who will never abandon us or betray us." She said, "The only." Lee's heart skipped a beat. This was the first time he heard such a familiar yet foreign word from a female. Was he the only, she said? Aside from the topic, today's Q&A, Sandy has a crush on a single male in St. Nazaire. May I ask if this male is ______? Same rules. The first baby who answers correctly will get XXB30, the second will get 20, the third will get 10, 11 to 25, 21 to 33. Chapter 90. Oh, so Daddy is what you two partners call each other. Hee hee, then I will also call Bode Daddy Bode in the future. Sandy thought that Daddy was like honey, and was just a dialect. But before she could finish her sentence, she felt a chill down her spine. She looked towards the source of the chill, and saw Leah smiling at her with a burning wooden stick in one hand. That smile was so cold that it sent shivers down one's spine. Crack! The wooden stick in Lee's hand was crushed into pieces, and some sparks splashed onto Lee's body. However, he did not care and just maintained that cold smile. In a clear voice he said, "This title belongs to me." Oh. Sandy shrank her neck and nodded pitifully. Leah was so scary when he had a partner. He even threatened females. He was not like this in the past. Sobs, sobs, sobs. She wanted to cry but did not dare to. She felt so wronged. Seeing that the atmosphere was a little awkward, Gu Mingming laughed dryly. She held Sandy's little hand in her arms and said, "Daddy does not mean partner. It is a kind of blood relationship, a kind of familial love. It is a kind of connection that cannot be severed no matter what. It is very simple but also very complicated. I will explain it to you when I have the chance in the future. Now let's talk about roasted meat. All right?" "Yeah." Sandy nodded her head as if she understood but did not probe further. She only hoped that the chapter on Daddy would be over as soon as possible. Lee's face darkened even more, and he looked especially angry. Because Gu Mingming just said that Daddy did not mean partner. "You do not intend to mate with Leah?" Sandy grasped the main point with a face full of shock. She completely ignored the fact that Lee's veins were popping out from her roar. Gu Mingming shook her head honestly and said, "At my place, we do not mate as soon as we reach adulthood. We will start off as friends, and after we understand each other to a certain extent, we will become lovers when we feel that it is right. After a few years of dating, we will get used to each other, and when everything is right, we will then seek the approval of both families and become partners under the blessings of all our friends and family." Sandy was confused. Friends? Wasn't it like the relationship between her and Gu Mingming? "Will we become lovers in the future?" Sandy asked in confusion. Gu Mingming burst out in laughter. "My sexual orientation is normal. I only like pretty boys. You don't like me anymore?" Sandy's eyes were misty, and it looked like she was about to burst into tears. It wasn't easy for her to make a friend. If Gu Mingming didn't like her, then would she become all alone again? Although her partners treated her very well and loved her very much, she always felt that there were some things that she couldn't tell them. But Gu Mingming was different. Although they had only known each other for a short 2 days, Gu Mingming gave her a very warm and special feeling. She really liked Gu Mingming. Haha, Gu Mingming laughed heartily and hugged Sandy tightly. She rubbed her furry little ears and said, "The like I mentioned is referring to the choice of partners. As a good friend and bestie, I like it a lot." "Really?" Sandy asked doubtfully. Her big innocent and clear eyes fluttered, making Gu Mingming's heart soften. "Of course it's true. You are kind and pure, gentle and cute, kind and not pretentious, friendly and caring. What reason do I have not to like you?" Gu Mingming held Sandy's chubby little face in her hands and kissed her. Sandy blushed and giggled. "I like you the most too." Sandy blushed and giggled. "I like you the most too." Aside from the topic, the competition is tomorrow and I don't know what the outcome will be either. I'm so nervous, so nervous. Babies, let's give it a try. Bookmark and leave a message. If you have any flowers, give them to me. Chapter 91. In your world, all males and females start off as friends, then become lovers, before finally becoming partners? Sandy blinked her big innocent eyes and tilted her head to ask. Gu Mingming played with Li's big tail while nodding her head and answering. "Not necessarily. We have a phrase called love at first sight. It's two people who can recognize each other in the bustling crowd, as if they are the other half of you that you have been searching for years. Then, the heavenly thunder and the earthly fire went out of control, and they got married just like that. Oh, marriage means mating." Sandy nodded her head as if she understood, then continued asking, "Then why didn't you fall in love with Leah at first sight?" Cough cough. Gu Mingming almost choked to death on her own saliva. Sneaking a peek at Leah, he was indeed smiling, but that smile looked dangerous no matter how she looked at it, as if he would rush up and strangle Sandy any time. Gu Mingming roared in her heart. "I say, Sandy, you have to be more careful. Why did you have to rub it in?" But even though she was cursing in her heart, Gu Mingming still had to come out to smooth things over. So she shrugged her shoulders and avoided Li's gaze guiltily. It was clearly written in his eyes. "Please start your performance. I am waiting to hear your explanation." Gu Mingming opened her mouth to say something, but almost bit her own tongue. But Sandy did not let it go, and added another stab. "Don't you like pretty older brothers? Leah is so pretty." Gu Mingming face-bombed. She decided to give Sandy the Best Bad Friend award. But Leah smiled and whispered into Gu Mingming's ear like a spring breeze. "In the entire beast world, I am afraid there is no one more good-looking than me. So, you like me, how about that?" Hehehe. Gu Mingming thought to herself. Was Daddy Leah selling himself? Wasn't he afraid that she would really pounce on him after being obsessed with him? Oh, he definitely did not know that there was a phrase in the modern world called fast food love. The kind that leaves after eating without taking responsibility. Just as Gu Mingming was fretting over how to reply, she saw a black wolf with something in its mouth dashing towards her from afar. Strangely enough, Gu Mingming did not feel afraid at all when such a ferocious beast pounced on her. Instead, she felt a sense of familiarity and intimacy. She jumped down from Li's tail, waved at the black wolf and shouted, "Leader!" Elvis's heart warmed. This was the first time he understood the meaning of family. In that dark, cold cave, there is a little girl waiting for you to come back. That was why he unconsciously sped up when he was hunting just now, as if something was pulling him back quickly. So, this was what it meant to be anxious to return home. It was only because she was waiting for him, and he couldn't wait to see her wave at him. As Elvis decelerated, he transformed into human form to prevent himself from crashing into her. Elvis grasped the perfect distance. After he completed his transformation and deceleration, he stood steadily in front of Gu Mingming, with a distance of half a step between them. Holding a bunch of rabbits in his hand, Elvis could not wait to wrap his other hand around Gu Mingming's shoulder and bring her into his arms. Gu Mingming, who was clearly a small ball, so soft that it seemed as if she would break with just a little force, had such an indescribable and wonderful power that made him yearn and go crazy. And Gu Mingming, who was in his arms, felt even crazier. "Leader, where's your beast skin dress?" Aside from the topic, Gu Mingming, "Sandy, it's the group interview time now. May I know, how do you feel about receiving the honor of being the best worst friend? Sandy. Firstly, I want to thank my papa and mama. Without them, I would not have been born. Secondly, I want to thank CCTV, Beast World TV and all the other TV channels. Thank you for everyone's recognition and love for me. Of course, the person I want to thank the most is my best friend, Gu Mingming. If it wasn't for your help, I would never have received this award. Half of this honor is mine, and the other half is yours. Chapter 92. Bobo. Leader, your clothes. Gu Mingming said each word with a trembling voice. Her entire body froze and she did not dare to move an inch. Yes, she was a girl who was slightly infatuated with girls, but that was only in the area of moving her mouth. When it came to real combat, she had the heart but not the guts to do it. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming, not willing to let go. He enjoyed the endless warmth that she gave him, and the blissful feeling that spread throughout his body made him sink in and infatuated with her. Where are your clothes? Gu Mingming swallowed her saliva. Damn, every single hair on her body was reminding her that she was being hugged by a naked male. Any careless touch would cause goosebumps all over her body to fall off. I threw it on the way. Elvis would never say that his beast skin dress was torn off by a tree branch because he was in a hurry to see her. He was too stingy to turn back to pick it up for 2 seconds, so he transformed into his beast form and ran back. Gu Mingming swallowed her saliva and silently cursed Leader for being so rich. The fist-sized luminous pearl was crushed just like that, and the top-quality fur was thrown away just like that. Rich. What about that? Sandy is watching. Gu Mingming really wanted to push Elvis, but any random movement of hers now would very likely cause her to touch something that she should not touch. So Gu Mingming could only stiffen her body and breathe carefully, afraid that it would cause unnecessary misunderstandings. Elvis's lips curled up and a strange feeling spread in his heart. She minded other females seeing his body. Help me wear it. Elvis stretched his hand out to Leah, and Leah took down the beast skin dress hanging near the entrance of the cave and threw it to him. Elvis caught the beast skin dress steadily and hooked it with one finger to hang it in front of Gu Mingming, looking like he was going to be naked if she did not help him wear it. Gu Mingming was free and hurriedly took a small step back to widen the distance between them. But this step back, she could see it even more clearly. Gu Mingming, whose face was as red as a pig's liver, snatched the beast skin dress from Elvis's fingers and wrapped it around Elvis's waist messily. She tied a dead knot in a flurry and only heaved a sigh of relief after ensuring that it would not fall off. He awkwardly changed the topic. Boss, what did you hunt back? Rabbit. Elvis picked up a bunch of rabbits tied together with grass that he had casually thrown aside, and passed it to Gu Mingming. Yeah, after squatting down, he realized that Gu Mingming's beast skin dress was worn really well. Although it was so tightly wrapped around his flesh that a slight movement could break the dress, the suffocating feeling was still pretty good. Look, there's a red mark on her waist. How beautiful it is. How artistic. Oh, the feeling of pain was just right to make every cell in his body excited so deliciously. Elvis's smile grew wider. He decided that unless Gu Mingming personally took off this dress, he would continue wearing it like this. Gu Mingming's face was still burning hot. She had no time to pay attention to Elvis's strange expression and Lee's deep gaze. She just took the rabbits and frowned her delicate crescent brows, asking, Boss, did you catch all the rabbits in this nest to extinction? Yeah. Elvis replied with a single word cheerfully. He did not know what extinction meant. Gu Mingming lifted the bunch of rabbits in her hands and asked, Even the nests? Not a single one was left behind, right? Yeah. Elvis continued, nodding his head cheerfully. Gu Mingming's lips twitched. She sat cross-legged on the ground and started to untie the little rabbits. She said as she untied them, You should at least leave a descendant for others, or else we won't have any rabbits to eat in the future. Aside from the topic, my babies, today is the last day of the PK. Collect your comments and click them. Tomorrow when the results are out, I will inform my babies immediately through the author's words. Today's prize-winning question and answer, Jenner is planning to do something. Please listen to the question. Are you a fan of Air Meng or a fan of Lai Meng? Or, Are you a fan of Ermeng? Leave a comment and tell us your faction. Let's see how many people are on the same side as you. Chapter 93. All right. Elvis did not care about the reason. As long as she said it, he was willing to do it. Gu Mingming untied the 4 little rabbits and looked around. She handed the rabbits to Sandy and ran to a nearby place to pull the tree vines. The tree vines did not look too thick, but it took some effort to pull them out. Gu Mingming pulled until the skin on her palms broke, but she did not manage to pull off 2 to 3. She could only hold on to the tree vines and turned back to look at Elvis pitifully. Leader, please protect me. All right. Elvis's eyes were filled with indulgence and love. He walked forward slowly and pulled lightly, causing the tree vines to fall onto the ground. Is it enough? Elvis looked at Gu Mingming, who was squatting on the ground to pick up the tree vines, and asked. Enough, enough. Satisfied, Gu Mingming picked out a huge bunch of tree vines before skipping back to Sandy's side. She sat down cross-legged and tied the tree vines one by one, before starting to weave a simple little cage. She asked while weaving, Leader, you only hunted rabbits? Nothing else? Elvis's eyes lit up with smiles. He thought that the messenger of the beast deity could only eat rabbits. He had been worrying on the way back, wondering if he could catch enough rabbits to feed her for the entire winter. Hearing her question now, did it mean that the messenger of the beast deity could eat other things other than rabbits? This would greatly increase her chances of survival. To Elvis, there was no better news. Just cows, sheep, pigs, and so on. Gu Mingming said while weaving the cage. Elvis thought for a while. If there was anything similar between rabbits, cows, sheep, and pigs, it should be that they were all animals with 4 legs on the ground. Following this pattern, Elvis tried asking. Cows, sheep, and pigs are rarely seen. Tigers, leopards, and wolves, are they okay? Gu Mingming was so shocked that she looked up at Elvis in shock. Was it really okay to have such a heavy taste? You still eat wolves? Gu Mingming could not accept the truth. Elvis was a wolf himself. How could he still eat wolves? Wouldn't it feel like he was eating his own kind? Just thinking about it made her feel burdened. Elvis, however, was unconcerned. He just shrugged and said, Becoming food is the fate of the weak. Huh. Gu Mingming was speechless. The weak were prey to the strong, survival of the fittest. There seemed to be nothing wrong with this barbaric era. Hence, Gu Mingming could only shrug her shoulders and did not reply. She quickened her pace and in no time, she had finished weaving the small cage. Sandy was already looking at Gu Mingming with starry eyes full of admiration. She felt that Gu Mingming was practically glowing. Gu Mingming opened the small door of the cage and placed the little rabbits inside one by one. She then used tree vines to make a lock and finally placed the cage in a shady spot at the entrance of the cave. She turned around and said to Sandy, Let's keep these 4 little ones as pets and play with them. Sandy tilted her head and blinked. Why don't you raise males as pets? She can make us happy and take care of us. The corners of Gu Mingming's mouth twitched. In his heart he cursed. Sandy, can you not use such an innocent expression and tone to say such hardcore words? What do you mean by raising males as pets? Why does it feel like a landlord raising a mistress? How could a good socialist youth do such a thing? Thinking about this, Gu Mingming's eyes darted towards Elvis and Leah. Damn it, these 2 fellows were just like the cool version of Teacher Cat in Natsum's Friends account, and the black version of Sesshomaru in Inuyasha. With this kind of physique, how could they be pets? Are you kidding me? Aside from the topic, the Kill Temple of Sesshomaru in Inuyasha does not have a black version. If you want to see it, please Photoshop it yourself. Another thing, Inuyasha is an anime with a more aged feel. Many children should not have seen it before. But for the details of the Kill Temple, you can refer to the cover of this article. That furry and handsome male is our Kill Temple. Chapter 94. Leah noticed Gu Mingming sizing him up and inched his face closer to Gu Mingming with evil intentions. He said ambiguously with an intimate posture, You want me to be your beast pet? No, how can I? Gu Mingming felt embarrassed as if she was caught red-handed. She waved her two little hands and hurriedly denied. Why not? Leah, on the other hand, seemed to be a little disappointed. He pulled Gu Mingming into his arms. Leah used his index finger to gently lift Gu Mingming's chin, his moist lips stopping at the tip of Gu Mingming's nose. His fragrance was so sweet that Gu Mingming's nose sank into it. Gu Mingming shuddered and stared at Leah, who was so close to her, dumbfounded. She did not dare to say anything. Leah then felt a little better, although he did not say it. He was jealous of Gu Mingming's reaction when Elvis hugged her just now. This light taste was just to make up for it. Leah smiled in satisfaction. The tip of his tongue was still savoring the taste that belonged to her on his taste buds. It was slightly sweet and tasty. As a beast pet, how about a snow fox? Pure white, magnificent, able to pray for blessings and cure illnesses. Leah suddenly smiled meaningfully, then moved his lips to Gu Mingming's ear and bit on her exquisite earlobe. Then he huffed and said, the kind that can also warm the bed. Gu Mingming's eyes lit up. Puffed. Blood flowed uncontrollably from Gu Mingming's nostrils. Daddy Leah broke the rules. Aya Gu Mingming, you're bleeding. Sandy appeared to be even more nervous than Elvis and Leah. Her roar snapped the two of them back to their senses. Why was she bleeding from her nose? Did she hurt her head? When Leah was beating someone up last night, did someone get past Leah and hurt Gu Mingming? It shouldn't be. The two males fell into a state of confusion. Gu Mingming raised her head and pinched her nose. She waved her hands at Leah and Elvis, who were lost in their thoughts. It's nothing, it's too dry. I'm just not used to it. Leah and Elvis looked at each other, but did not know how to reply. They had never encountered such a situation before. At that moment, even Leah did not know what to do. Sandy, can you accompany me to the stream to wash my face? Gu Mingming stretched out her hands like a blind person touching an elephant. Feeling her way toward Sandy, Elvis was one step ahead. He held onto Gu Mingming's outstretched wrist and pulled her into his arms. He said worriedly, I'll go with you. Oh. Gu Mingming really wanted to say that she only had a small nosebleed from Daddy Lee's teasing, and it was not some terminal illness that could kill her. Elvis really did not need to put on an expression as if her life was in danger. But with him being so nervous, Gu Mingming felt strangely at ease. Yes, a child with a mother is a treasure. Elvis's speed was extremely fast. Even though he was carrying Gu Mingming in his arms, it did not affect his speed at all. It was as if Gu Mingming, who weighed 60 kilograms, was just a small cotton ball with no weight at all. Leah walked side by side with Elvis the moment he took his first step. The smile on his face was unknowingly replaced by worry. He did not say much and only said two words lightly, let's go together. Sandy was extremely anxious, but there was no way her speed could catch up to Elvis and Leah. She could only huff and puff as she ran behind them. After they left Elvis's territory, Bode carried her all the way to the stream. Elvis and Leah ran frantically towards the stream one after another. In addition to Gu Mingming's rutting fragrance, they had long attracted the attention of the people in the tribe. In addition, Sandy, the worst friend, followed closely behind. She shouted as she chased after them. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Gu Mingming has lost a lot of blood. I don't know if she will die. I'm so worried, run faster. Yeah, the news of Gu Mingming's death spread throughout the entire Saint Nazaire in an instant. Aside from the topic, this was the last chapter of the PK period. The PK would start later. So nervous. No matter what the outcome was, Jean Eyre and Gu Mingming were extremely grateful for the companions and hard work these 3 days. Thank you for your passion and love. It makes me feel very warm. Chapter 95. By the time Gu Mingming and the rest reached the stream, the nosebleed had already stopped. But since they were already here, she might as well wash her face. Gu Mingming had just rolled up her sleeves to wash her face when she heard a commotion behind her. Gu Mingming, who was squatting by the stream, was instantly petrified. What kind of scene was this? Males with bruised noses and swollen faces were rushing over hurriedly, as if they wanted to see someone for the last time. Gu Mingming tilted her head and froze on the spot. Before she could ask what was going on, Sandy, who was at the front, had already hugged her. She said tearfully, "Gu Mingming, don't hide it from me. What happened to you? Hurry and tell me." I just had excessive internal heat," Gu Mingming answered honestly. "Look, I washed my face twice and I'm fine now." Sandy did not believe her. She held Gu Mingming's little face and tried to look into her nostrils. After looking, she felt that it was not detailed enough, so she moved her nose closer and sniffed carefully for a while. After confirming that there was no more bleeding, she then heaved a sigh of relief and said pitifully, "You can't hide it from me if you're sick." "It's fine, don't worry, I'm fine." Gu Mingming hugged Sandy's shoulders and comforted her. "Who would bleed from their nose for no reason? Don't try to lie to me, sob sob. You're my only good friend if you die." I sob sob. It was better if she did not comfort Sandy, but after Gu Mingming consoled her, Sandy felt even more upset. Her tears flowed freely, causing Gu Mingming to sigh. This Sandy, she was good at everything except that she loved to cry too much. She was a soft girl from head to toe. "All right, Sandy, if you continue crying, I'll drown in your tears." Gu Mingming helped Sandy wipe her tears while coaxing her. "Don't cry, look at that stream. There are fish. I'll roast some for you, all right?" Fish. Hearing that there was food, Sandy stopped crying with difficulty. Her eyes, which had yet to fade from tears, were as clear as the night sky that had been washed by water, clean and transparent. "Look, that's it." Gu Mingming pointed at the big fat fish swimming leisurely in the stream, as if it was not afraid of humans at all. "Water shuttles taste horrible. They taste fishy and have thorns." Sandy looked at the small fish with a look of disgust and curled his lips. Shaking her head, she pulled Gu Mingming's arm and said coquettishly, "Gu Mingming, let's just roast the rabbits. Look at how many rabbits Elvis caught just now. Other than the ones you reared, there's still enough for us to eat." Sandy saw that Gu Mingming was unmoved and was still staring at the water shuttle with sparkling eyes. She made up her mind and stomped her feet. "At most, I will eat less and let you eat your fill first, all right?" On the other hand, Gu Mingming grabbed Sandy's little hand and pulled her in front of her. She used her chin to point at Elvis and Leah, then pointed at Bode and the other males who had followed her all the way here. She then asked, "Everyone is watching. Only the two of us are eating? Aren't you ashamed?" Sandy looked around, then nodded her head confidently. "Of course I am. Why should I be ashamed?" Gu Mingming smiled helplessly. "The rabbits were caught by Elvis. We still need Lee's help to prepare them later on. In the end, I'll be eating while others watch. I'll be sitting while others stand. What would happen then? No, I can't do it. If we want to eat, we'll eat together or we won't eat. What era are we living in? Why is there still sexism?" Aside. Extra great news, this article has passed 1p. The great editor has informed me to write well and prepare for 2p during the PK period. Thank you little cuties for your support and crazy calls. Thank you little babies, Black Sleeves Fragrance, and Yu Ji Yuyen for their flowers during the PK period. Also thank you QQ Bookstore Seeing Yen's Knight for his 388 reading BB. Chapter 96. Of course, Sandy did not know what gender discrimination was, because the beast world had always been like that. It was only right for females to have priority in all resources. But it was also right for females in the beast world to be willful, especially for the first beauty of the tribe like Gu Mingming. She could do whatever she wanted. Not to mention a mere water shuttle. Even if Gu Mingming picked up a rock from the ground and said it was a delicacy, there would be males who would stand out to chew it into pieces and praise it as delicious. Anyway, the males would be the ones to eat the worst food. So Sandy did not insist and just treated it as playing with Gu Mingming. She nodded her head and said, "All right, whatever you say. But we have to agree, after you roast the water shuttle, we will roast the fish to eat." "All right." Gu Mingming nodded her head, then looked at Bode and Sandy's other males who were following behind Sandy. They wanted to get closer, but seemed to be afraid of Elvis and Leah. She rubbed her chin and smiled sneakily. "But we can't let Elvis prepare everyone's food by himself, right? Can we ask those from your family to come over and help?" Sandy turned around to look at Bode. Just as she was about to nod her head, she hesitated and peeked at Elvis and Leah from the corner of her eyes. She whispered into Gu Mingming's ear. It's not a big deal to help, but Elvis has to agree first. Gu Mingming looked back at Elvis in confusion and shrugged her shoulders in confusion, asking, What do you mean? Sandy wrinkled her nose at Gu Mingming, pretending to be disgusted. Then she inched closer and said in an even softer voice, Elvis is the leader of the tribe and has the priority to hunt. Wherever he is, as long as someone snatches his prey within the range of his scent, it will be considered a provocation, and he will teach that person a harsh lesson. Bode and the rest are not Elvis's match. Gu Mingming opened her mouth and nodded her head as if she understood. Then, she turned around to look at Elvis and said, Leader, can we ask Sandy's males to come over and help us prepare some food? Elvis rubbed Gu Mingming's little head lovingly. After confirming that her nose was no longer bleeding, he felt relieved and his mood turned for the better. He scooped Gu Mingming into his arms and hugged her with one arm. His eyes were filled with so much indulgence that it could melt into water. His voice was low and thick, like the playing of a cello. Here, you have the final say. Gu Mingming chuckled and gave Elvis a thumbs up. Leader, you're so reliable. Elvis seemed to be used to hearing Gu Mingming talk about irrelevant things, and did not think about what she meant by atmosphere. Looking at her expression, it was definitely not something bad, so he accepted it gladly. Gu Mingming jumped down from Elvis's arms and held her head high, looking like a little villain intoxicated by success. She cleared her throat and said, Those who want to eat together later, prepare your own ingredients. Elvis nodded. Gu Mingming's words caused a huge commotion among the males. Gu Mingming, can we eat with you? Amidst the cheers, all of them were asking the same question. Gu Mingming nodded and said, Of course you can. The more people there are, the more delicious the food will be. Oh! After a round of cheers, the single males scattered off to hunt. This was a chance for them to display their skills in front of Gu Mingming. She must have wanted to test everyone to see whose hunting skills were stronger, so she asked everyone to stay for a meal. After all, winter was coming soon and hunting skills were naturally the most important factor in choosing a partner. Chapter 97. At that moment, Gu Mingming still did not know what kind of weird ingredients she would face later on. Looking at everyone's energetic looks, he grinned and thought to himself, Looks like everyone is hungry. You guys. Gu Mingming waved at Bode and the rest. Can you go into the water and help me catch 2 fish? Bode did not reply and just looked at Sandy, as if waiting for her to say something. Sandy nodded without hesitation and said, Of course, Bode is a very good swimmer. Bode was pleased by Sandy's praise and his gaze was filled with a, I really don't know what to do with you smile and love. He nodded and said, Sit by the shore and wait for me. Don't go near the stream, understand? Sandy pouted. She was obviously not too happy. Gu Mingming would ask her for help, but Bode and the rest still treated her like a piece of trash, and only asked her to wait by the side. Good girl. Bode cupped Sandy's chubby little face with both hands and waited for her promise with anticipation in his eyes. I know, hurry and go. Although Sandy was unwilling, she did not have the heart to resist. Used to, what a scary word. After getting Sandy's promise, Bode nodded his head in satisfaction. He gently kissed Sandy's forehead and said gently, Wait for me. Then, he untied the beast skin skirt tied around his waist and transformed into a leopard. With a leap, a yellow shadow leaped into the water. Perhaps it was because the people in the beast world did not like to eat fish, so these fat and strong fish did not have any sense of danger. Even if a ferocious beast like Bode jumped into the water, they did not care. They swam and ate whatever they wanted, as if they did not care about Bode at all. Bode raised his claws and slapped the water, splashing water up to a meter high. Before the water droplets fell back into the stream, 2 fishes as thick as Gu Mingming's thighs landed in front of Gu Mingming. Handsome. Gu Mingming instinctively praised him. She looked at the 2 fishes and her mind spun rapidly. Pickled cabbage fish, boiled fish, squirrel fish, braised fish and fish meat hot pot. What the F***ck? Gu Mingming swallowed her saliva and cursed that beast deity in her heart. What kind of lousy place was this? There wasn't even a seasoning. Sob sob sob. Every time it was time to eat, Gu Mingming would miss the borders of the modern world. Now that he thought about it, instant noodles were simply the best in the world. While Gu Mingming was lamenting the lack of spices, Leah and Elvis had already stepped into the stream. However, neither of them transformed and maintained their human forms. Elvis could not bear to remove the beast skin dress that Gu Mingming had helped him wear, while Leah did not want Gu Mingming to see him drenched. After all, a drenched fox was not a peerless beauty. Admittedly, Bode was Sandy's partner, and would definitely not pose any substantial threat to Renbao and Leah. But, if he was defeated by another male in front of his own female, how could he still have the face to live? Furthermore, why should others prepare the food that their female wanted to eat? Once these two brothers reached a tacit understanding, what could they not accomplish? Hence, not long after, the fish in front of Gu Mingming had piled up into a small hill. Gu Mingming snapped back to reality and hurriedly waved her hands. Sigh, enough enough. If you can't finish them, don't catch them. Chapter 98. Most importantly, Elvis was standing beside the alluring Leah. Even if Leah had clearly explained to Gu Mingming that he and Elvis were not in that kind of relationship, the image was still too strong. Gu Mingming felt a warm sensation spreading in her nostrils, as if she was going to have a nosebleed again. Leader, Daddy Leah, come up, hurry up. Gu Mingming panicked. She did not want to experience the entire tribe looking at her, as if she was attending a funeral. Elvis frowned and rushed to Gu Mingming's side. As his body was wet, he did not dare to carry her. He just held her shoulders and asked with a serious face, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Gu Mingming waved her hands and laughed awkwardly. Could she say that she was about to have a nosebleed from the cuteness of Elvis and Lee's rotten image? Really, Elvis did not seem to believe her. Leah followed Elvis onto the shore. He stood behind Elvis and watched for a while. Finally, he stretched out his slender and bony hand to touch Gu Mingming's forehead. After confirming that her body temperature was normal, he pressed his palm on Gu Mingming's chest. His heart, which had just relaxed because she did not have a fever, suddenly became anxious again. This heartbeat, why was it so fast? And it seemed to be getting faster. Leah frowned and was about to say something when a crisp slap landed on Lee's face, followed by Gu Mingming's earth-shattering and deafening high-pitched scream. Leah frowned. Leah frowned. Leah was bewildered by the slap and Elvis was even more dumbfounded by Gu Mingming's scream. Even Sandy, who had been watching from the side, was dumbfounded and did not know what had happened. The one who reacted the fastest was Bode. He jumped out of the water and stood in front of Sandy. He looked around warily, thinking that there was an enemy invasion. Gu Mingming shouted until the last bit of air in her chest was sucked dry. She then stopped with a red face. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and hugged her shoulders. She glared fiercely at Leah, as if she was about to cry. She was like a young wife who was being teased by someone glaring at a hooligan. Leah pointed at his own nose in confusion and asked, "Did I do something wrong? What the hell?" Gu Mingming looked at everyone else who had a blank look on their faces. She really wanted to cry but had no tears. If this was the modern world, Lee's actions would definitely be considered sexual harassment. But in this era, what kind of era was this? She had hugged Colin, and Sandy had wanted her to take Colin as her partner. She had been attacked in the chest, and no one had spoken up for her. Clenching her teeth, Gu Mingming answered fiercely, "No." How the hell was he supposed to explain that a girl's body couldn't be touched casually? Telling orcs like them, who didn't even know what their daddy was useless. Gu Mingming felt extremely aggrieved, but she could not say it out loud. She could only press her face into a steamed bun, pouting as she walked towards the pile of fish. She stopped in her tracks and turned back to look at Sandy. "Sandy, come and help." "Oh, okay, I'm coming." Sandy still felt that she could not keep up with Gu Mingming's pace. She did not know why she was suddenly happy or angry, but there was one thing she knew. Gu Mingming always had her own reasons. She would not be wrong to trust her. Sandy answered as she walked towards Gu Mengmeng. But before she could take 2 steps, she was stopped by Leah. Chapter 99. You have a secret in your heart. Leah stared at Gu Mengmeng, whose face was getting redder as he got closer to her. The curve of his lips brought a hint of warmth. If one did not look closely, it would look no different from usual, but the gentleness he exuded could not be deceived. No. Gu Mengmeng denied flatly. Leah did not insist, he just held Gu Mengmeng's little hand and pressed it against the left side of his chest, where his heart was. He gently hugged her waist and pulled her closer to him, so that Gu Mengmeng was pressed against his chest. I let you touch it back, so don't be angry, alright? Gu Mengmeng wanted to retract her little hand as if she had been electrocuted, but Leah did not give her any chance. He placed his palm on the back of her hand, pressing it tightly against his chest. He tilted his head slightly and said with a gentle gaze, I have a secret in my heart. If I cut it out for you to see, you won't be angry at me anymore, alright? Ha! Gu Mengmeng fluttered her thick eyelashes, looking at Leah in confusion. Promise me. Leah smiled, extending his sharp claws in front of Gu Mengmeng, cutting into the flesh inch by inch along the edge of Gu Mengmeng's little hand. What are you doing? That bright poppy-like blood rolled down Lee's fingertips. Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment, then struggled to break free from Lee's little hand, holding on to Lee's wrist that had turned into a sharp claw, preventing him from hurting her anymore. She could only feel anger in her heart, glaring at him and saying, self-harm is the most stupid thing to do. But it's the most effective. Leah retracted his fingernails, then pulled his arm inwards. Gu Mengmeng, who was holding onto his wrist, flew into Lee's arms. Leah hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly in his arms, using a strength that made him want to knead her into his body to imprison her, as if that was the only way to prove that she really existed. Your heart aches, right? Leah asked, the faint smile in his eyes carrying a tinge of joy and a tinge of palpitation. The injury just now was just a small cut on the flesh. A wound of this degree would heal automatically before night falls, but such a small wound could cause such a huge reaction from her. Although self-harm was stupid, but it was worth it. Yes, my heart aches. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and pressed harshly on Lee's wound. Half of her fingertip sank into his flesh, and the warmth of the blood from her fingertip made Gu Mengmeng's heart ache. Aren't you just bullying me for feeling sorry for you? Let me tell you, those who make me sad will not have a good ending. Leah arched his back and tiny beads of sweat covered his forehead. His eyes, however, were staring at Gu Mengmeng lovingly without blinking, not moving away from her face for even a moment. Seeing that Leah was in so much pain, Gu Mengmeng hurriedly retracted her little hand that was pretending to be fierce, but her wrist was held tightly by Leah, unwilling to let her escape just like that. You haven't seen that secret yet. Leah held Gu Mengmeng's hand and placed it into his wound, as if the person bleeding was not him. He smiled seductively and said, Cut open my heart, I'll let you see who it belongs to. Gu Mengmeng's eyes were filled with tears. No, I don't want that. Gu Mengmeng pulled back her hand with all her might. How could she be Lee's match in terms of strength? Seeing that her fingertips were about to touch Lee's wound again, Gu Mengmeng's big eyes were filled with pleading as she said in a sobbing tone, I beg you, don't do this. Aside from the topic, it's time to promote the correct values again. Little cuties, self-harm is really an extremely stupid act. You must never learn it. Chapter 100. Can't bear to? Leah did not care about his wound at all, as if it was not worth mentioning. With a faint smile on his face, he inched his flawlessly handsome face closer to Gu Mengmeng and asked in a faint voice, Then forgive me, don't be angry, alright? Gu Mengmeng's eyes were filled with tears. Seeing that Leah was no longer pulling her, Gu Mengmeng pouted her lips and said pitifully, You have to promise me that you won't harm yourself in the future. As you wish. Leah loosened his grip on Gu Mengmeng's wrist and turned to hug her slender waist. With a light lift, he hugged her into his arms and rubbed her little face intimately before continuing to ask, Tell me, what did I do wrong just now? I don't want to see you angry anymore. This place hurts. Gu Mingming looked at the bleeding wound that Leah was pointing at and groaned sullenly. The sullen feeling of being molested had long been scattered into dust by Li's stirring. Now that she heard his heartache, Gu Mingming actually felt a sense of sweetness and warmth in her heart. F***CK, could this be the legendary Stockholm Syndrome? You're still distracted after being hugged by me? What are you thinking about? Leah squinted his long and narrow eyes. Ambiguity and jealousy merged perfectly on his fairy-like face, colliding into an extreme temptation. No, I'm not thinking about anyone. Gu Mingming did not know why, even though Elvis's original body was much fiercer than Li's. She seemed to be more afraid of Leah. Leah looked at Gu Mingming doubtfully and raised his eyebrows, signaling Gu Mingming to answer his question just now. Gu Mingming looked elsewhere guiltily. Her little face was burning, and even her throat was so tight that she could only squeeze out a very soft voice from her throat and say, "You can't touch a girl's body so casually." Leah smiled wickedly and hooked Gu Mingming's chin with his index finger. He brought her face closer to his and stared at her as if he was looking at a piece of delicious food. He licked his lips suggestively and asked in a slightly arrogant tone, "Then what should I do when I want to hug you?" Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with disdain. "Hugging doesn't count," Gu Mingming replied, blushing. Leah looked at Gu Mingming with a mischievous smile, as if he had discovered something. Gu Mingming was stunned by his smile, and her face turned even redder. She said angrily, "I'm not asking for a hug." Oh. Li's smile became wider. He liked Gu Mingming's shy and bashful look. It was so cute. "Oh, what do you mean?" "I'm really not asking for a hug." Gu Mingming really could not explain herself. She pushed Leah and wanted to leave his arms, but this sly fox actually pressed the wound on his chest against her. As long as she used a little more strength, he would definitely bleed. Gu Mingming gritted her teeth and thought to herself, "Are you sure you can't bear to hurt me? You're ruthless, you've guessed correctly." "I really can't bring myself to do it." Leah did not answer Gu Mingming's question. He just used his index finger to hold her chin and asked, "Other than your heart, is there any other place that will make you angry if I touch it? Tell me, okay?" Once Leah asked this question, Elvis, who was standing at the side, could not help but perk up his ears. Gu Mingming said angrily, "You can't touch any place that is covered by clothes." Leah pondered for a moment, then said with a serious face, "Next time, I'll help you take off your clothes first." Gu Mingming was so angry that she screamed in her heart, "Hey, hurry and tell me you're not serious." Chapter 101. While Gu Mingming was cursing in her heart, there was already a commotion on the other side. A group of males galloped over on horseback. Gu Mingming felt her scalp go numb as she looked at the weird prey the males were carrying in their hands. What the heck, they were all protected animals like tigers, lions and bears. There were also some that she could not even name. No, she had never even seen them before, but they were obviously precious animals. But these males just threw these animals away like they were cabbages, piling them together with the fishes that Leah, Elvis and Bode had caught. Gu Mingming was speechless as she asked the heavens, "Isn't the beast deity going to do something about this?" Leah followed Gu Mingming's gaze and the corners of his lips curved upwards, forming a beautiful arc. These males were really willing to put in a lot of effort. It was almost winter, and these plump preys that had long been hidden were probably preys that they had been observing for a long time, but did not make a move on, waiting for the winter to end before hunting them. To please Gu Mingming, they even took out their food reserves to protect themselves during winter. They were really blinded by lust. "Like it?" Leah saw that Gu Mingming was staring straight at them and said helplessly, "Elvis and I also have some food reserves. If you like it, I can hunt it for you." "Still hunt?" Gu Mingming looked at Leah in shock. Meeting his mesmerizing eyes, she could not help but soften her tone. She smiled apologetically and said, "Let's settle these first. It will be a waste if we can't finish them." Although she said that, Gu Mingming had already decided to only eat fish. Damn tigers and whatnot, she could not bring herself to eat them. "All right, I'll listen to you." Leah carried Gu Mingming, and had no intention of letting her down. Just like that night when he saved her from Quentin's hands and brought her back to the tribe. She placed her hands behind her back and shook her head as she looked at the group of well-built, good-looking males. She felt as if she was filming Descendants of the Sun too. Yeah, she was acting as the demon female instructor. Although Song Joong-ki was not around, there was Elvis and Leah. Moreover, there was a group of males who could be teased by her. Kaka, how could a single word describe the feeling of love? Gu Mingming, the tiger I hunted, is the tiger king in this area. It's one of the best among the wild beasts. It has a strong body and usually eats the healthiest animals. There was a male whose name Gu Mingming could not remember at all because of Elvis and Lee's comparison. Gu Mingming gave him a thumbs up. A hero who fights tigers. Not bad, not bad. You have the power of Wu Song. The male who hunted the tiger muttered in his heart. Wu Song? A new adjective? Is it the same as the word tough guy, used to describe Barrett? It should be about the same. But who cared what he meant? It was Gu Mingming who praised him just now. Chapter 102. Gu Mingming looked at the one who hunted the tiger just now, whose face was red from holding back, and looked like he was about to attack. She quickly came out to calm things down and said, "Brave one, you even dare to hunt a snow fox. Aren't you afraid of Leah beating you up?" The one who hunted the snow fox looked at Gu Mingming blankly, then looked at Leah and asked seriously, "Why did Leah beat me up?" Leah did not answer the fox hunter. Instead, he held on to Gu Mingming's waist and knocked on her little head lightly. Seeing how she was holding her head in pain with a face full of grievance, he could not help but laugh but did not want to let her off so easily. So he used the most gentle smile and a slightly cold tone to ask, "Are you comparing me with a wild fox?" Gu Mingming shrunk her neck and waved her hands, saying, No, Daddy Leah, you are strong and mighty, ruling over the world. How can a mere wild fox be compared to you?" Oh. Leah obviously enjoyed Gu Mingming's flattery, even though he knew that she was not being sincere, so what if she was making it up? He loved to hear whatever she said. Really? Gu Mingming nodded her head seriously and emphasized her tone. Be good. Lee's lips landed on Gu Mingming's little earlobe, and he bit it not too hard or too light. Then he let go of her in satisfaction, allowing her to continue inspecting everyone's prey like a supervisor. Gu Mingming blushed. No matter how many times she did it, she could not get used to Daddy Lee's ambiguous actions. Everyone was watching. Cough, cough. Gu Mingming cleared her throat and said, "Everyone's prey is very good. I won't look at them one by one due to time constraints. In order to let everyone eat more delicious food, I need a small team to accompany me to carry out a very important mission. Who is willing to go with me?" Gu Mingming was almost stunned by the undulating sound of the same voice. Don't, there's no need for so many people. Around 3 to 5 people would be enough. Everyone has to work together, otherwise it would be too inefficient. Gu Mingming thought to herself, the crowd is too passionate. It also makes people feel pressured. Elvis went forward and carried Gu Mingming in his arms, glancing at the boiling male beast with a cold face. The pressure he unintentionally emitted successfully controlled the scene. "Leah and I will accompany you. That's enough." Elvis's calm voice was filled with absolute confidence. Coincidentally, Gu Mingming did not want Elvis and Leah to follow her, because if they did, she could forget about doing anything. So Gu Mingming said with a fawning expression, "That won't do. You and Daddy Leah are the only 2 people in the tribe who know how to start a fire other than me. We need quite a lot of firewood to feed so many people. If I bring the 2 of you away, who would know how to start a fire? Who would dare to light a fire?" No, you 2 have to stay here and light the fire." Hearing Gu Mingming's words, Elvis and Leah felt an indescribable sense of pride. She said they were irreplaceable. Gu Mingming thought to herself, flattery will never work. The ancients did not deceive me. Thus, Gu Mingming struck while the iron was hot and whispered into Elvis's ear. Moreover, look at how they go berserk at the slightest provocation. If not for you and Daddy Leah here to control the situation, I reckon they would have destroyed the entire tribe by the time I return. Elvis actually did not hear clearly what Gu Mingming said, because when her warm breath landed on his ear, a numb feeling spread from his ear to his entire body. His heart was so manic that it was deafening. That thumping heartbeat almost broke his eardrums. Aside from the topic. Chapter 103. Leader, just let me go, alright? Gu Mingming tugged at Elvis's arm and swung it left and right, acting coquettishly without any integrity. Oh. Elvis nodded his head blankly and responded. Yeah. Leader, you're the best, as Gu Mingming said. She kissed Elvis's face and was about to run. But before she could take 3 steps, Leah grabbed her arm and pulled her into Lee's arms. What about me? Leah leaned his beautiful face forward and Gu Mingming's face heated up. Her heart raced and she felt uneasy. Glancing left and right, she lied to herself and found an empty spot where no one was looking to give Leah a peck on his face. Then, she turned around and ran away as if she was running for her life. She shouted while running. Cole, Bode and the one who hunted the snow fox just now. The 3 of you follow me. Cole naturally did not say anything. It was as if he was waiting for Gu Mingming's call at any time. When he heard Gu Mingming calling his name, he dashed behind Gu Mingming without hesitation, and was the closest to her. Bode was a little unwilling, but seeing Sandy giving him a strong push, obviously telling him to listen to Gu Mingming's arrangements, he could only bear with the awkwardness and follow. The slowest one to react was actually Oakley, who hunted the snow fox. Happiness came too suddenly, and he was a little unprepared. Oakley, hurry up. Colin automatically assumed the role of the deputy leader of the Special Operations Team. After all, he was the closest to Gu Mingming here, as he had helped her wash the rabbits before. Oh. I'm coming. Oakley did not dare to delay any longer, as he was afraid that others would snatch his chance to get close to the little female. So he hurriedly chased after her. Luckily, Gu Mingming's speed. It was too easy to catch up. So, Oakley was seriously considering if he should pretend that he could not catch up to her? But would Gu Mingming think that he was too useless? Just as he was hesitating, Bode said impatiently, Let Colin carry you, it's faster that way. Gu Mingming pouted and said, I have my own legs. Bode glanced sideways at Gu Mingming's 2 slender legs and sneered. Ha, I can tell. Just as Gu Mingming was about to flare up, she saw Bode running over 10 meters away in a flash. He raised his head from afar and said, Hey, little female with long legs, why don't you start running? You. Gu Mingming stomped her feet and said, So what if you run fast? I'll go back and tell Sandy that you bullied me. You. Bode's face darkened and he lost his temper. The most important reason why he deliberately provoked Sandy was because ever since Sandy got to know this little female, he had focused all his attention on her. If not for the fact that Gu Mingming was really in heat, he would have treated Gu Mingming as a weaker male love rival. It was indeed embarrassing to compete with a female, but what could he do? He was also in despair. His little female could not see anyone else other than Gu Mingming. All the males in the family were in danger of losing their favor. What about me? Gu Mingming would not lose to Bode in terms of aura. If she could not win the first round, Bode would not take her seriously. In that case, if Bode bullied Sandy in the future, how could she stand up for Sandy? Although the possibility was not high, she would rather kill the wrong person than let him off. Aside from the topic. I'll reply to the messages left by the little babies in QQ Book City. I saw some babies saying that Leah has too many scenes. Since the male lead is destined to be Elvis, should Lee's scenes be cut down appropriately? Regarding this question, my answer is, Elvis is definitely the male lead. Sir Wolfman is talking about Elvis. But Leah is also a very important character. At the current stage, he is someone that Gu Mingming likes more than Elvis. Although one is in the third person, the main point of view is based on Gu Mingming. She now cares about Leah, so Lee's scenes are destined to be the most important. Chapter 104. Gu Mingming snorted at Bode with her nostrils, then continued speaking with her head held high. If not for Sandy, do you think I would be willing to bring you out? Gu Mingming would never admit that she had brought Bode out mainly, because she could remember the names in the tribe. Moreover, other than Elvis, Leah, Colin and Bode were the only ones present. Although Bode was aggrieved, he had no other choice. If Gu Mingming was a male, he could still fight until one side was convinced. But Gu Mingming was a female and he was not Quentin, he could not do anything to a female. Moreover, if Gu Mingming was hurt by him, not to mention how Elvis and Leah would deal with him, even Sandy would not let him off. Thinking of how Sandy worshipped Gu Mingming, Bode shook his head gloomily and took a step back. He shifted his face to the side and said in an impatient tone, "Why did you bring the three of us out? Hurry up and tell me. I still need to accompany Sandy after I am done with you." Gu Mingming's lips curved upwards and she gave a cheeky smile. "Sandy has me. Does she still need you to accompany her?" Very good, this stab hit the bullseye. Bode could not retort after being ridiculed, and could only take a deep breath. Feeling even more aggrieved, Gu Mingming saw Bode admitting defeat, and felt a little smug. "Bickering with me? Haha. I can talk you to death." Turning around, Gu Mingming looked at Colin and the man standing at the side. She touched her chin and asked, "I heard Colin call you Oakley just now." "Yes, I am Oakley, from the Lynx tribe." Oakley's lips curled into a faint smile. If one looked closely, he looked like Leah. But he did not look like a deity, nor did he look like a demon. Compared to Leah, he could only be considered as average handsomeness. Gu Mingming nodded and repeated while thinking, "Lynx tribe, no wonder you could hunt such a precious female snow fox." Oakley's eyes curved into crescents as his heart surged. "Do you know? Gu Mingming praised me." Gu Mingming did not care much about Oakley's thoughts. She tilted her head and asked Colin, I still don't know what race you are from." Colin gave a silly smile and replied, "Like Sandy, I'm a bear." "Oh, no wonder you know about bees." Gu Mingming thought for a while, then looked at Bode who was drawing circles at the side and cursing someone. "Hey, Sandy said you know about bees." "Oh no. Where is the nest of the yellow needle insects, right? You called the three of us out to get the yellow sauce?" Bode looked as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He quickly shook his head and said, No, Sandy has specially instructed me not to bring you to the nest of the yellow needle insects. If you need yellow sauce, you can ask Elvis or Leah to help you find it. They are the strongest warriors in Saint Nazaire. They can definitely help you get a lot." "TSK, I'm just asking you if you know. Why are you spouting so much nonsense?" Gu Mingming widened her eyes and stepped on a huge rock with one leg, looking like a female bandit blocking the road to rob. Of course, if her small physique could be more burly, or Bode could be more skinny, maybe the scene would not look so funny. Bode really wanted to deny it, and say he did not know. But if he said that, it would be equivalent to saying that Sandy was lying. Sandy cared so much about Gu Mingming. If Gu Mingming distanced herself from her because she thought that Sandy was a female who liked to lie, Sandy would definitely be very upset. Clenching his teeth, Bode still nodded his head and said, "I know." Aside from the topic, thank you to bookfriend 15*88 from QQ Reading for providing the names. But in this beast world, other than the female lead, the names are all European. The names you provided are too deep in China, so it's not suitable for this novel. But thank you for your valuable suggestions. Also, thank you to bookfriend 172-749-6011 for your message. I will take care of my health. Thank you for your concern. Chapter 105. Gu Mingming fluttered her long and thick eyelashes and stared at Bode for a while, realizing that he had no intention to continue speaking. She frowned and slapped Colin's stomach. Her soft little hand made a crisp sound as it collided with Colin's strong abdominal muscles. Gu Mingming originally wanted to intimidate Colin to tell her the location of the beehive in an imposing manner, but in the end, she underestimated the sturdiness of Colin's abdominal muscles. From her fingers to her forearm, she used all her strength to slap Colin. "Ouch!" Gu Mingming wailed, feeling that her hand was crippled. "Aya, Gu Mingming, how's your hand? Does it hurt a lot?" I'm sorry, it's all my fault." Colin's heart ached terribly as he held Gu Mingming's little hand carefully, but did not know what to do. "Why don't we let Oakley send you back to Saint Nazaire first, and let Leah check if your hand is fine?" Leave the yellow sauce to me and Bode. We'll definitely bring it back for you, okay? When Gu Mingming heard that he wanted her to turn back, how could she agree? So he shook his numb hand and said, No need, no need. I'm fine. But Colin was still worried. He wished his eyes could turn into X-rays and see every cell on Gu Mingming's hand clearly through the skin. No buts, listen to me. Gu Mingming placed her hands on her hips. So what if she lost her imposing manner? Even if he dropped the ball, he still had to change his style. Gu. Colin still wanted to say something, but Gu Mingming placed a finger on his lips. That pretty little face was right in front of him. Colin swallowed his saliva instinctively, but did not say another word. After settling Colin, Gu Mingming then turned around to continue threatening Bode. If you're smart, just tell me where the nest of the yellow needle insects is. Otherwise he. Bode looked disdainfully at Gu Mingming, who was as weak as a cub. The forced cunning smile on her sweet face did not seem threatening at all, but instead made people feel that she was mischievous and cute. Although she could not be compared to their Sandy, she was barely worthy of the title of the first beauty of Saint Nazaire. But this little fellow wanted to scare him? He's still a little too tender. What else can I do? Is he going to complain to Sandy again? You can go. Sandy won't blame me for this. Sandy would be mad at me if I took you to the nest of the yellow needles. Bode crossed his arms in front of his chest and leaned against the tree trunk at the side, clearly not taking Gu Mingming's warning seriously. Gu Mingming saw that using force was not going to work, so she changed her strategy. She shook her head helplessly and sighed. All right, since you are so insistent, I will not make things difficult for you. It's just that Sandy was looking forward to my yellow gravy barbecue. Everything was prepared except for the yellow gravy barbecue. Sigh, that little foodie. How disappointed would she be if she couldn't eat the yellow gravy barbecue? Thinking about the tears in her innocent eyes, it was really heartbreaking to the listener to hear it and cry. But don't worry, Bode. Even if you can't fulfill Sandy's little wish, I won't ridicule you in front of her. The males in the tribe won't laugh at you either. Sandy won't think that you don't love her and refuse to do such a small thing for her. Bode finally understood that this was a blatant threat. So this was what he meant. It's all right, don't worry. Gu Mingming interrupted Bode's words and continued on her own. No matter how disappointed and sad Sandy is, she will at most ignore you for 10 days to half a month. At most, there will be other males who will take the opportunity to win her heart and become her most important partner. Isn't it just a drop in status in the family, and being laughed at by others for being the most useless first partner who can't stand up straight? These are all small matters, right? Gu Mingming interrupted Bode's words and said to herself, no matter how disappointed Sandy is, she will at most ignore you for 10 days to half a month. Aside from the topic, replying to book friend 30***67, I was really touched after reading your comments. Thank you for liking it also. Why did you only reply to the comments on QQ Bookstore and not on Xiaoxiang's website? Because I had directly replied to all the comments on Xiaoxiang's website. Backstage Bookstore did not have a backstage, so I could only reply like this. Chapter 106. Bode was so angry that he wanted to bite someone. But Gu Mingming was a female. Why was this annoying Gu Mingming not a male? And you guys? Gu Mingming turned around to look at Colin and Oakley. No one is allowed to tell anyone that Bode is unwilling to help Sandy find the yellow sauce. Sandy had always been bullied by Nina in the past, causing her to have such a submissive personality that she would cry over even the smallest matter. If this matter was made known to the entire tribe, who knew what kind of criticism Sandy would receive? By then, that damn Nina would definitely say that Sandy is a half-orc, something along the lines of, it must be because Sandy is a half-orc, that's why Bode is unwilling to help her with such a small matter. That Nina would definitely say that. I don't want Sandy to listen to such harsh and sarcastic remarks, so all of you better keep your mouths shut. No one is allowed to leak a single word. Colin and Oakley looked at each other and thought to themselves, although it sounds like he's defending Sandy, why do I feel that something's not quite right about it? I'll bring you there. Bode could not hold it in any longer. It did not matter how much he was mocked and mocked. Even if Sandy found a new partner in the future, he would already be mentally prepared. But if Sandy was to be bullied by Nina because of this matter, he would definitely not tolerate it. Really? Gu Mingming turned her head to look at Bode suspiciously, her face full of doubt. Really? Bode could not explain why, but he always felt that he was always on the losing end whenever he met Gu Mingming. Although they would fight with Nina's partners from time to time when Nina bullied Sandy, and were often beaten up badly by Quentin, but he could at least fight for Sandy then. Damn, why was it that whenever he met Gu Mingming, she would just blabber on, and he would be unable to defend himself? Grievance, so damn grievance. Bode firmly believed that he must ask Sandy to stay away from Gu Mingming when they return, or else she would be led astray by Gu Mingming sooner or later. But this was all in the future. The most important thing now was to bring Gu Mingming to find the yellow sauce, but also to ensure that she would not be killed by the yellow needle insects. Or else, he would not be able to answer to Sandy. Thinking about this, Bode cleared his throat and said, I can bring you there, but you have to stand far away with Oakley. Once something goes wrong, let Oakley bring you and run first. Gu Mingming looked at Oakley, suddenly feeling that her mounts after she came to the beast world. In the past, who would have thought that she could ride a black wolf and a snow fox? Or maybe she could even ride a lynx. Mingming Gu Mingming Gu. Gu Mingming answered without hesitation, causing Bode to suspect that she had no intention of abiding by the agreement. Gu Dinghao then dilly boomed. When the four of them finally reached the beehive, Gu Mingming pushed Bode away and walked forward while shaking her head. She walked to the bottom of the beehive and raised her head to take a look. Not bad. Pure wild honey. The beehive was big and sturdy, and she could faintly see the golden honey inside. The worker bees in and out busy. Dong. Gugu was gudong. Chapter 107. Gu Mingming shrugged her shoulders at Bode indifferently and said softly, As long as you don't panic, the yellow needle insects won't attack suddenly. Calm down a little. The veins on Bode's forehead bulged and he shouted for the 100th time in his heart. Why isn't Gu Mingming a male? Gu Mingming was not willing to waste any more time, so she returned before Bode exploded. Dusting off the dust on her hands, Gu Mingming started to assign tasks. Colin, you have more strength. Help me find some dried leaves and damp branches. All right. Colin naturally had no objections to Gu Mingming's arrangement. He nodded and went to the side to collect the things that Gu Mingming wanted. Oakley, when Colin is done preparing the things, can you help me start the fire? Gu Mingming was not that familiar with Oakley, so she was naturally more polite to him. But Gu Mingming's politeness made Oakley feel a lot disappointed. It must be because he did not work hard enough on the night when Gu Mingming became an adult, and did not perform as well as Colin. That was why Gu Mingming was so distant towards him. Oakley decided to perform better in the following days, so he nodded his head firmly and promised that he could complete the mission. Gu Mingming turned around to look at Bode, and drew circles in front of Bode with her fair and slender fingers. She dragged her voice and said, You, Bode was still impatient as he totally did not understand what this female wanted. She said she wanted to find the yellow sauce for a while, and then made a fuss when he did not bring her along. Now that she was here, she said she wanted to start the fire. Forget it. Your mission is already completed and there's nothing else for you to do. Gu Mingming's face was filled with disdain, and she simply turned her head away and ignored Bode. Colin was extremely fast. Anyway, he was gathering the materials from the ground, so it was not difficult to find the dried leaves and damp branches. So while Gu Mingming and Bode were not happy with each other, he had already carried a huge bunch of dried leaves and 10 over damp branches back. Gu Mingming, do you think these are enough? As Colin spoke, he took out 2 tree branches that were stored separately from his armpits. There are 2 dry ones here. I saw Elvis and Leah using dry tree branches when they lit the fire, so I brought 2 along. Do you want to use them? Yes. Gu Mingming nodded her head like she was pounding garlic. Colin, I didn't see it coming. You look simple and honest, but you're actually a careful person. Colin scratched his head in embarrassment. He sat cross-legged on the ground, and prepared to drill the wood to start a fire. However, he had only drilled it twice when he pinched the dry branch into 2 pieces. Gu Mingming chuckled and took the branch from Colin's hand. "Leave this to Oakley. You have other important things to do later." Colin was also embarrassed. He had never thought that drilling wood to make a fire was a delicate job. But seeing that Gu Mingming was not disappointed in him because of this, Colin felt much more at ease. He simply handed the branch to Oakley and watched from the side with Gu Mingming. Although Oakley was not as smart as Leah, he quickly grasped the knack. A thin wisp of smoke rose up and Gu Mingming hurriedly piled the dried leaves inside. Then, she pointed at the leaves that looked like an elephant's ear. "Colin, pull 2 leaves and fan them." Colin reached out his hand and pulled 2 leaves off. Then he started fanning them one by one. Gu Mingming's face darkened. She turned her head and asked, "Why are you fanning me? Who asked you to fan the fire?" Aside from the topic. "Yesterday, I plucked up my courage to look for the editor and said that everyone thinks that NPC is good. Can I write NPC? The great editor told me seriously. We are cracking down." Chapter 108. With everyone's help, Gu Mingming's plan to start the fire was successfully carried out. Gu Mingming saw that the fire was still burning brightly, and wanted to praise Colin and Oakley, but she saw that the 2 fellows were already clenching their molars so tightly that their facial nerves looked a little hideous. Sigh, being afraid of fire was an animal's nature. Gu Mingming shrugged her shoulders to express her helplessness. She could not count on the help of these 2 fellows who were afraid of fire. So Gu Mingming could only add the damp branches to the fire pile herself. Not long after, thick smoke rose in spirals, as if thick ink had dripped into a clear water tank, brewing enchanting and beautiful ink marks. The place where Gu Mingming started the fire was naturally the air vent, so the wind blew from her back, blowing the thick smoke towards the beehive. At first, a few worker bees came out to check on the situation. Then swarms of bees rushed out of the beehive like a torrent of water, flying in the opposite direction of the smoke, as if they were escaping for their lives, completely not noticing the culprit Gu Mingming standing not far away. When most of the bees had flown out, and the remaining few had fainted from the thick smoke, Gu Mingming then used the damp grass and leaves to extinguish the fire pile. The smoke looked scary, but the fire was actually not that big. After dealing with the aftermath, Gu Mingming patted her hands that were black from the soot, raised her chin and looked at the 3 males who were dumbfounded. She happily accepted the worship and shock in their eyes with a complacent expression. "Alright, do you know what to do next?" Gu Mingming's big, lively eyes were embedded on her dirty little face. She gave Colin and the other 2 a do-it look, but the 3 of them still maintained their dazed gazes and looked at her, as if they did not understand what had happened from the start. Gu Mingming facepalmed. Sigh, brains are a good thing, but they actually did not have it. If she was not afraid of Leah and Elvis stopping her, she really should have brought the 2 of them along. Helplessly, she could only use these 3 people now, and that Bode was still someone she could not rely on. Gu Mingming sighed and could only pull herself together. She patted Colin's shoulder and said, "Colin, hug me." "Huh." Colin blinked his big eyes, before nodding his head with a smile. He stretched out his arms and lowered his head shyly, not daring to look at Gu Mingming in the eye. He was like a little girl who was reluctant but welcoming at the same time. Gu Mingming frowned and said with a look of disdain, "You're almost 2 meters tall. Why are you acting shy? It doesn't match your character at all." Colin did not know how to reply to Gu Mingming's sarcasm. He just lowered his head feeling wronged, thinking to himself, "I'm really too stupid. I made Gu Mingming angry again. Don't blush." Gu Mingming was going crazy. She really could not stand a muscular man who was almost as strong as Schwarzenegger behaving like a little wife in front of her, who was the one who risked his life to rush the tower last night, and was covered in blood. Beast deity, hurry up and take this effeminate fake goods away. Oh. Colin nodded vigorously, but he didn't know how to keep his face from turning red, and the more anxious he was, the redder his face seemed to become. What to do? How hopeless. Gu Mingming facepalmed and gave up on Colin's character. She turned to Oakley and said, Oakley, hug me for a while. All right. Oakley nodded and walked to Gu Mingming to hug her lightly. Then, he let go of her obediently and stood back at his original spot. Gu Mingming could clearly see a flock of crows flying past her head in a flock. She just wanted someone to carry her to harvest the beehive. Why did it seem like she was asking for hugs everywhere? Can't we just have fun? Aside from the topic, thank you to the QQ Reading Baby Bubble Milk Tea for tipping 100 Reading B. She also replied to the little baby, emoji, as question. Regarding how Leah would react, I've already answered it in the reader group. It's not convenient to say more in the comments. Believe me, I have my own difficulties. Chapter 109. Gu Mingming's face darkened. Forget it, I won't count on you guys, I'll climb up the tree myself. Gu Mingming shook her head and gave up the idea of communicating with these males helplessly. She walked towards the hive by herself. How would Colin and Oakley dare to let her walk over alone? So they kept their lingering thoughts and hurriedly followed her. Colin stood in front of Gu Mingming, ready to use himself as a meat shield to protect her. Oakley followed closely behind Gu Mingming, ready to bring Gu Mingming away if the yellow needle insects attacked. Although Bode found Gu Mingming extremely annoying, she was a precious female after all. Moreover, she was someone that Sandy valued so much. So if there was any danger, he must protect Gu Mingming even if he had to sacrifice himself. This was the responsibility of a male. Gu Mingming sighed deeply. The damn bees had already flown away long ago, but these guys were still advancing like the Japanese entering a village with a minesweeper posture. By the time they reached the place, the damn bees would have flown back. Move away if you guys are afraid. Don't delay me from collecting the yellow sauce, alright? Gu Mingming pushed Colin, who was blocking in front of her. Colin had some understanding of the yellow needle insects. He knew how powerful they were. Seeing Gu Mingming's fearless look, he became more worried, so he licked his lips and said, "Why don't you just stand here and wait? I'll go over and help you get it, alright?" Gu Mingming did not insist and nodded. "Alright, just break off half of that hive for me. Just half is enough, don't take the whole thing." "One half?" Colin's eyes widened. In the past, when they risked their lives to snatch it, the best result was a palm-sized piece. That time, there were 2 males who could never return to Saint Nazaire. 2/3 at most, no more. If you take it all, they won't come back to build their nest next year. That won't do, understand? Gu Mingming did not know about Colin's worries. She thought that half was too little. Colin clenched his teeth, thinking that even if he was killed by the yellow needle insects, he would never disappoint Gu Mingming. So he nodded with the determination to die. "Alright, I'll definitely get it back for you. Wait for me here." Gu Mingming did not understand where Colin's tragic and stirring emotions came from. She only saw him instructing Oakley and Bode to bring Gu Mingming away immediately if anything happened. Then, he turned into a bear resolutely and sprinted towards the beehive. Have you ever seen a Kuroshio that is as tall as a building running on all fours? Why did it feel like the wind was howling and the water was cold? As if it would never return. Gu Mingming wanted to stand behind Colin and sing One Cut Plum. Colin didn't waste any time. He went up and directly dug out more than half of the beehive with his palm. Then he turned around and ran. As he ran, he shouted, "Success! Retreat!" Then either Oakley or Bode grabbed Gu Mingming's collar and dragged her along as they ran. Gu Mingming looked at the scenery flying past her rapidly and her heart crumbled. The King bees didn't even chase after us, so why are you guys running? Unfortunately, the 3 males didn't even give her a chance to speak. They sprinted all the way back to Saint Nazaire. When Gu Mingming could finally land on both her feet, she felt as if she had sat on a roller coaster 8 times. Her head was spinning and she just wanted to vomit. However, just as Gu Mingming was about to find a tree root to support herself and vomit, a deafening cheer rang out behind her. Before she could react to what had happened, she was lifted by all 4 limbs and thrown high up into the sky by a group of males. F***CK, Roller Coaster 2. Upgraded version 0. Digression. Announcement. This article's 2p will be held from the 25th to the 28th. Same rules. In these 3 days, don't pay attention to the articles, don't pay attention to the articles. You must follow the articles daily, and then actively leave comments. Those who have flowers will donate flowers, and those who have votes will vote. During the PK period, there will be 3 chapters every day. The diligent Jeaner is working hard to write the draft. Then it will be the same as during 1P. There will be a small question placed under the article every day. The first one to answer correctly will be rewarded with 66xxb. The second one will be rewarded with 56xxb. The third one will be rewarded with 36xxb. The rest of the people who answer correctly will be rewarded with 18xxb. The first one to leave a comment every day will be rewarded with 10xxb. Those who discuss the plot will be rewarded according to the quality of their comments. Our Gumingming's future will depend on the results of 2P. Also, reader group number 4927799273. Chapter 110. Gu Mingming could not stand the torment and screamed in fear, "Leader, save me!" Before she could finish her sentence, she had already fallen into an embrace. Her pale face was pressed onto Elvis's chest, and she tilted her head to listen. His strong heartbeat calmed Gu Mingming's flustered emotions, but it could not suppress her urge to vomit. Unfortunately, there was not much food in her stomach. Gu Mingming did not vomit anything after retching twice and collapsed weakly in Elvis's arms. Damn it, she really did not expect that after avoiding the Happy Valley and Disney, she ended up on an exciting roller coaster ride in the ancient wilderness, and it was the kind that did not even have a seatbelt. Gu Mingming felt as if she had a serious illness, and did not even have the energy to scold anyone. Elvis looked at Gu Mingming, and felt a little heartache and helpless. He gently cupped her little face and said, "No one has ever brought back so much yellow gravy, but you only brought Colin, Oakley and Bode, and you did it. Looks like I have to give up the title of the #1 warrior of Saint Nazaire to you." Gu Mingming sighed in resignation and said, "They suddenly went crazy and threw me up because of this?" Elvis's gaze swept across the group of males who were still unable to calm down from their excitement and nodded. "Yes, you are the pride of Saint Nazaire." Gu Mingming felt really helpless. Why did these people always go crazy because of some random things? It was just some honey. Why did they have to go crazy? Was it an illusion? Why did she feel that the way those males looked at her was not right? It felt like they wanted to eat her up. "Xiaoming." Elvis patted Gu Mingming's back lightly and said, "I am so happy to be your partner. You are my biggest pride." Partner. Gu Mingming really wanted to kill herself. She had just told Leah clearly that she did not have the intention to become partners, but she had forgotten that Elvis still misunderstood. "Sigh, I treated you as my leader, but you wanted to sleep with me." Mingming. Gu Mingming wanted to explain but was interrupted by Leah. He whispered into Gu Mingming's ear at a volume that only the two of them could hear. "Everyone in the tribe is watching. If you have anything to say it after we return." Gu Mingming glanced at the male beasts who were still in a state of rage, pursed her lips and nodded. Elvis treated her so well. She could not let Elvis be so embarrassed and be rejected in front of everyone in the tribe. He even had to hear her say that he was just thinking too much. "Let's eat first. I'm starving." Gu Mingming smiled brightly and put aside Elvis's matter for now. They could talk about it when they got home at night. However, now that Elvis was obviously not going to be her godmother, then could she still stay in Elvis's cave? Although Elvis did not know what Gu Mingming and Leah were talking about, he could not help but feel uneasy. However, seeing Gu Mingming's smiling face, he could not bear to ask and did not dare to ask. He could only follow her wishes and nodded his head. Gu Mingming turned around to look for Sandy in the crowd. From afar, she saw a small isolated area beside the crowded stream. There were 2 or 3 figures there. She could not see them clearly as they were too far away, but she could vaguely feel that they could be Sandy. Hence, Gu Mingming shouted Sandy's name while rushing towards that direction. With Elvis and Leah guarding the area, Gu Mingming passed through the crowd effortlessly. But when she reached the front, she saw that there were 3 females in that small empty space and Sandy was one of them. She was standing at the side wiping her tears, feeling wronged. Aside from the topic, Ayaya, it's going to be 2 p. tomorrow. Let me remind my babies again to clock in on time after 12 noon tomorrow to catch up on the novel. Chapter 111. Nina? It's you again? Are you itching for a beating? Gu Mingming pulled Sandy behind her and frowned. She rolled up her sleeves and was about to pounce on Nina. Nina had suffered at Gu Mingming's hands before, so why would she go against her? Moreover, Gu Mingming was not Sandy. Her males were Elvis and Leah. Even if all the males in her family attacked together, they would not be a match for those two Buddhas. So Nina's body softened and she pretended to be innocent. I didn't do anything. Didn't you ask everyone in the tribe to come to the stream for a meal? Can't I come? If you want to eat, just eat. Why did you bully Sandy? Gu Mingming did not believe that Sandy would just stand there and cry pitifully if Nina did not bully her. She has you backing her up. How would I dare to bully her? If you don't believe me, ask her. What did I do to her? Nina put on a hypocritical look and pointed at Sandy with her chubby chin. She wanted Gu Mingming to ask her. Gu Mingming then turned around and held Sandy's little hands gently. She asked gently, Sandy, don't be afraid. I'm here. If she bullied you, just tell me. I'll beat her up for you. She didn't bully me, but she said bad things about you. I was so angry that I argued with her. She then asked her males to beat a dolly until he was seriously injured. Sob sob. Sandy looked at Gu Mingming. She was like an aggrieved wife who had found her pillar of support. The more she spoke, the more aggrieved she became. Her tears could not stop flowing. Although Gu Mingming did not know who a dolly was, he must be one of her partners to stand up for Sandy. Gu Mingming did not even have the energy to retort. She had already beaten up your husband until he was seriously injured. How dare you say she did not bully you? How much more did you want to bully her? But Sandy was already covered in tears. Gu Mingming could not bear to say anything more to her. She hugged her gently and patted her back to comfort her. All right, it's all right. I'll ask Daddy Leah to take a look at a dolly later. He will be fine. As for Nina, leave her to me. Don't cry. If her eyes are swollen like peaches, she won't be pretty anymore. Gu Mingming sent the sobbing Sandy into the arms of Bode, who was grinding his teeth and was about to charge forward to fight for his life. Gu Mingming gave him a look, telling him to comfort Sandy. Then she turned to look at Leah. She did not say anything, but the word please was clearly written in her clear eyes. Leah originally wanted to stay behind to protect Gu Mingming, but seeing Gu Mingming's expression, he did not reject her. After all, having Elvis here was enough. I'll go take a look at a dolly. I'll leave this place to you. Leah instructed Elvis before turning around to leave. After everything was settled, Gu Mingming rotated her neck left and right as a warm-up. She smiled at Sandy with an evil intention and said, I warned you not to bully Sandy, or else I will beat you up every time I see you. Is your IQ really lacking, or do you not put me in your eyes at all? What are you doing? Nina had seen Gu Mingming's little fists before. Although they looked light, it was still very painful to hit. What am I doing? Of course I'm fulfilling my promise. If I don't beat you up today, others will think that I'm untrustworthy. As Gu Mingming said, she pounced towards Nina, looking like she wanted to tear her into spicy strips. She was like a wild cat that had gone mad, wild and dangerous. Even the males at the side who did not dare to intervene in a female dispute broke out in cold sweat, muttering to themselves, why didn't this Nina learn her lesson? Why did she have to offend her? She was the Gu Mingming who could snatch the yellow gravy from the yellow needleworm and come out unscathed. Aside from the topic, today was the day of PK. The 2 sessions in the morning would be updated as usual, and the 3rd session would be updated at 2 p.m. Starting tomorrow, Chapter 1. 8:30, Chapter 2. 9 o'clock, Chapter 3, 9:30. Those little babies who have not clicked on favorites, remember to do so and be more proactive in leaving comments. Chapter 112. You can't hit me. Nina pulled one of her partners over to block in front of her. Only then did she have the chance to finish her sentence. I'm pregnant and I'm definitely pregnant with a little female. If you hit me now, even if you're the most beautiful woman in the tribe, Elvis will not side with you. Gu Mingming's hand froze in midair, and 10,000 beasts were galloping in her heart. She knew Nina was a pervert, but she didn't expect her to be this pervert. Do you think I'm a fool? You weren't even pregnant when I hit you 2 days ago, and now you're pregnant in the blink of an eye. Gu Mingming remembered that she had punched Nina's stomach on the platform of the deity's punishment. If she was pregnant, that punch would definitely be enough to cause a miscarriage. But she was perfectly fine that day, and now she was pregnant after a night's sleep? Do you think you're me, you? You can even get pregnant in a dream? I'm pregnant. Nina's face turned red, and she was determined not to admit it. Gu Mingming laughed coldly and said sarcastically, other than *T, there should be nothing else in your stomach. If you don't believe me, I'll punch you and you'll know the truth. As Gu Mingming said, she walked around Nina's partners and grabbed Nina like an eagle catching a chick. Nina dodged left and right pathetically and cried out as she dodged, Gu Mingming, why are you so evil? You didn't even let the unborn female in my stomach off. Stop talking nonsense. Don't run if you have the guts. Gu Mingming feinted to the left and Nina ran to the right. Gu Mingming dodged and caught Nina in the act. Run, run. Gu Mingming twisted Nina's wrists behind her back and held both of them with one hand while her other hand grabbed her hair from the back of her head. She pulled Nina's unbearable face in front of her and said word by word, if you don't have enough IQ, just stay here obediently. If you have the guts to bully Sandy, then you have to be able to bear the consequences. After Gu Mingming finished speaking, she pushed Nina with all her might and gave her a hard kick on her, but as she fell forward, as expected, Nina fell onto the ground in an extremely pathetic manner. Just as Gu Mingming was about to pounce forward and hit him again, she was blocked by someone. Gu Mingming, if you have any dissatisfaction, you can ask Elvis or Leah to fight with me. Even if you kill me and all of Nina's partners, we have no complaints. But no matter what, Nina is still a precious female of Saint Nazir. Please don't hurt her anymore. His voice was dry and hoarse, and his eyes were filled with reverence, but he did not shrink back. He only had one arm, but he did not seem to be in a sorry state at all. Instead, he had a kind of unyielding elegance. Gu Mingming looked up and indeed, she saw Quentin's familiar face. Towards Quentin, Gu Mingming still had some reservations. After all, she almost died in his hands 2 days ago. Gu Mingming was never a person who blindly flaunted her strength. She knew that she had no chance of winning against Quentin, so while retreating, she lifted her chin and asked, why? Are you going to play the same trick again? You didn't kill me last time, so you want to kill me again today? Let me tell you, my leader is here. You can't hurt me. Elvis took the opportunity to carry Gu Mingming up with one arm. He was clearly only half a head taller than Quentin, but the pressure of a natural king made him look much more muscular than Quentin. That was an absolute crushing pressure. As if looking at an ant with disdain, he looked at Quentin, who was standing in front of him, and said, you're not worthy to fight with me. Call all the males in your family fight. Aside from the topic, watch my Gu Mingming sealing technique. Those who are hit by this technique must immediately click to collect, or else there will be no meat to eat. Chapter 113. Elvis's word battle shocked the entire place into silence. Everyone seemed to be holding their breaths, afraid that if they breathed too loudly, they would be burned. Elvis, you actually want to kill all the males for her? Nina saw that Gu Mingming was being carried in Elvis's arms, and could not jump down to hit her for a while. Furthermore, Quentin had also rushed back, so she became much more daring. She directly stood out from behind Quentin and reprimanded Elvis as though he was Chin Shimmy. Back then, in order to prove my fertility to you, I got pregnant with a nest of eaglets the year I came of age. But in order to give birth to your first nest of wolf cubs, I forced Quentin to smash all the eggs in the nest. I don't blame you for always distancing yourself from me all these years. As long as you agree to mate with me now, I promise that when I go into estrus next spring, I will mate with you immediately and give birth to your first nest of wolf cubs. Give up on that, Gu Mingming. It's going to be winter soon. If she goes into estrus at this time, she will definitely not have a good ending. Even if she successfully gets pregnant after you mate, with that skinny body of hers, how can she survive the long winter? And how can she give birth to healthy cubs for you? Elvis was expressionless. He grabbed Nina's neck with one hand and lifted her off the ground easily. He squinted his dangerous eyes and said in a voice so cold that it seemed like ice could form, "You don't have the right to comment on Xiaomeng." Quentin held onto Elvis's wrist. Even though he was on his last breath after going through 3 days of the deity's punishment ritual, coupled with the fact that the murderous aura and pressure from Elvis was too strong, making it extremely difficult for him to even breathe, but looking at Nina who was on the verge of death, Quentin still forced himself to take a breath and said with difficulty, "She's a female." Elvis curled his lips in disdain. His pupils shifted slightly and he glanced at Quentin from the corner of his eyes, asking, "So what?" Quentin pursed his lips tightly. He knew, and it was precisely because he knew that he chose to bring Nina to St. Nazaire back then. The rules of the beast world were completely useless to Elvis. No, to a mated male, nothing was more important than his own female. Even he could kill Gu Mengmeng because of Nina's words. What more Elvis? Quentin felt that his vision was starting to turn yellow, and everything he saw was blurry. This was a sign of fainting. If he did not think of a way, Nina would probably die before he fainted. Quentin used his last consciousness to form a sentence. Gu Mengmeng will be scared. Although this sentence was short, it effectively dispersed Elvis's murderous aura. He lowered his head to look at Gu Mengmeng who was nestled in his arms, and recalled how she had cried at the campfire party on the night she came of age. His heart ached and he flung Nina far away. He rubbed the hand that was strangling Nina's neck twice on his beast-skin dress before patting Gu Mengmeng's back gently and comforted her. "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Seeing that Nina was saved, Quentin finally couldn't support his weak body anymore. His legs gave way, and he collapsed onto the ground. Even though he might never be able to open his eyes again, the corners of his lips were still curled upwards. As long as she was fine, everything was fine. Out of topic. Question. What race is Sandy? The first one to answer correctly, XXB 66, second 156, third 136, every subsequent 118 XXB, that you're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.